The Browns, they're putrid. They're the worst team in the NFL.
The season, the 2024 season is over.
Lamar Jackson can't win the playoffs. He'll win a third MVP, though, so that's great. Drew Sample is the most important piece of the Bengals offense next year.
Go Joe Burrow. He deserves to be MVP. I wish he was the Browns quarterback. Kind of mean that.
If you're looking for the most reactionary, silly, and unserious show on the internet, then you're home. Live from Hamilton, Ohio, it's Off the Bench by Chatterbox Sports on 1410 ESPN Radio.
Just a friendly reminder for all in this room that this is a radio show and that swearing is not allowed. I know we kicked off yesterday's show a little fired up, a little feisty. Are we a little calmer today, gentlemen?
Yeah, I'm calm. Calm's a word. Calm, depressed, sad. I think those are all synonyms.
What about you, Jacob?
You know,
he's there.
I'll get there by Sunday, hopefully. Yeah. I'll get back in. We're working on it. It's a long climb.
Casey came in yawning a lot. He's down today. I have to tell you, I thought that with your team's slow start, I would be more aggressive with just coming at you guys. But like I feel bad. Like I'm not even comfortable doing it. And plus, when you're a Browns fan, you don't really have the green light to do it. But yeah, like it's been depressing even for me, and I'm not even a Bengals fan. But yes, I could definitely tell it's weighing on everybody. Casey, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Yeah, this might be one of the lowest energy shows that we've done. That we will do.
Jesus, that's all right, everyone. See ya.
Yeah. I'm just trying to be honest here. It's depressing time. I mean, we're sitting here getting trolled by other teams because we're so bad, and Cincinnati's never had anything good happen to them in the last 30 years. It's just, we're in a bad spot.
It's an interesting spot to be in because, with the emergence of L.A. De La Cruz in Cincinnati, you have one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL in Joe Burrow. Like, that sets the stage for being one of the one of the best sports cities in the country right now.
For sure.
And I don't think that Cincinnati is not. I think that there's a lot of revamping that needs to be done with both teams, no doubt. But a year ago at this time, you get Joe Burrow back and L.A. De La Cruz, man, the future is bright. Ellie's been great. Joe Burrow's great. But we always forget. We build up the stars. We talk about the stars. But it's what's around them that is going to impact the vibe of the city and just, the accomplishments and the goals being reached for all. And you talked about teams mocking the Cincinnati Bengals. It's not just the Bengals. Everyone's mocking the city of Cincinnati, and that's not what I'm doing here. But we saw it last night with the Reds. Yes, baseball's still happening. The Reds are still playing. I don't know.
Yeah, baseball's still happening.
The Reds were in action last night. They lose 6-1 against the Guardians last night, and I was about to congratulate the Guardians on clinching home field advantage in the playoffs, and they win the AL Central. 91-67 is their current record, and they did a good job of kind of navigating through a season. They gave up. They had a very big lead. They had a very good lead in the Central pre-All-Star break. They came out flat. At one point, gave up the lead in the AL Central, and then they regained their composure and control, and they end up taking care of business. Kind of a feel-good story. I don't feel like there's the dislike between the Reds and the Guardians the way there is between the Browns and the Bengals, at least amongst the fan bases. But that's kind of changed for me a little bit because while the Guardians were celebrating and I'm watching them celebrate, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to watch them celebrate because I want to envision what it's going to be like watching L.A. De La Cruz and Matt McClain and Spencer Steer and Hunter Green and Nick Lodolo and these guys that, you would like to think the core, if you will, celebrate when they can clinch the Central, their Central, the National League Central, right? Like, I'm waiting for that. So I'm going to watch. And then I'm watching, and then this is what I see. Casey, pop it up on the screen. This is what I see during their celebration last night, as they're celebrating not just their win over Cincinnati, but winning and clinching the AL Central. I know we're having a little computer issues right now. We'll get that popped up there. But while I have you, the shirts they're wearing, did you guys have a chance to see?
Yeah, I did. I saw them.
Yeah.
I'm not mad about it. They won it, so they've won it for the past, 10 years in a row?
Something like that. Well, I don't know if they haven't won it for 10 years, but the Reds have not won it.
The Reds, you're right, because it's split. You can split.
Yeah.
The Reds have not won it for 10 years, so I don't mind it. They can do whatever they want. They won it, and it's also they're riding high on being a buy in the postseason. So you're just celebrating for fun now. You're getting an extra little party in before the playoffs start. I have no problem with it. It's just a shirt.
I also the quip, Cincinnati's in Kentucky, close,
But it's not.
Try reading the map next time, guys.
Yeah.
No, I don't know. I also like Kentucky. I spend a lot of time in Covington.
Yeah.
Newport. These are nice cities.
Nice towns.
I like the Northern Kentucky area. It seems like some kind of shot to say that we're Northern Kentucky. I think it's a beautiful place.
When we win, I guess we'll just say Cleveland's a dumpster.
In Michigan.
Yeah.
So with this,
It's the same thing. Yeah.
the wild thing is, one more time, Casey, pop it back up on one more time. So they beat the Reds last night, cool. But they're more focused on, and again, I think it's kind of equipped to the Ohio Cup, right? Like you clinch home field, you're officially in the play, right? Like all this stuff, you're celebrating winning the division. And instead of having branded shirts, like keep in mind, this is an organization that went from the Indians to the Guardians. And they've made the playoffs since being the Guardians. They're a very good organization. I completely get that. However, you're not promised to have a lot more celebratory opportunities, and you don't even have any of your branding on there. It's just taking a shot at Cincinnati. Cincinnati, a very poorly run organization, so I don't know really what you're winning. Like you're taking a shot. Not even like teams that you're going to run into in the playoffs.
Well,
Not
it's the
even
biggest
teams that are
rivalry in
gonna win.
professional sports.
It's a rivalry.
It's like, I mean, Michigan and Ohio State are just, I mean, they're not even in the
yeah.
news compared to
How many
this.
professional
a
sports
rivalry.
rivalries have a massive gold trophy that go back and forth? Usually it's just bragging rights. No,
Yeah.
not here. Not here. We have a nice piece of metal.
It means more in Ohio.
We know how much pieces of metal mean in the MLB, and
Ooh,
there's a
nice.
big one going back and forth.
Rob Manfred, very
That's right.
pleased with that comment. Yeah.
I just think they wanted to have a little celebration, and it was kind of I think it was a sarcastic celebration to win the Ohio Cup. So I don't fault them for
But
it.
My
you didn't
question
win the,
is,
like
if
you're
they-
focused on the Ohio Cup. You just
But they're not,
clinched home
they're not,
field.
No,
they're not
no.
focused on the Ohio Cup.
They wouldn't have been spraying champagne if it was just the Ohio Cup.
Correct.
I do wonder if they would have had the shirts if they would have clinched like last week.
Oh, they wouldn't have worn those last week.
Another Sally?
I think I think they would have done another one.
For the Ohio
just-
Cup?
Yeah, I
Okay.
think it's just a sarcastic bit. I really do. They wouldn't have had the champagne, but they would have celebrated or had the shirts at least. I really don't think it doesn't bother me that much. If we ever win the Ohio Cup, I hope to do the same exact thing. So.
You would hope that the Reds
Just
where
some friend-
Cincinnati
just-
is in Kentucky? Is
Well,
that what
just
you're-
some
Honestly, yeah, that'd be really funny.
just
if we
some-
win the Ohio Cup next year and all the players are in the locker room with Cincinnati's and Kentucky shirts.
Yeah,
go
just-
throw a party at like
yeah.
Covington Yard. That'd
just
be
some
fun.
just some friendly trolling. That's all this is.
I was annoyed with it because I'm like, this is, I get if you wear those shirts after you win the Ohio Cup earlier in the season, fine. But again, you just clinched home field. You just made the playoffs. You're going to the playoffs and you're more focused on having T-shirts prepared and ready. I don't know. It just seemed very high schoolish to me. I wasn't a big fan of it. I told you before, I don't have anything against the players on the Guardians roster, but I do have a thing against the Guardians organization. I don't like watching organizations who don't invest into their team and get bailed out because the players do their job, but the front office not doing theirs. So I already wasn't rooting for the Guardians heading into the postseason. I'm even pulling for them to lose even more now. I hope that this is the only time that they celebrate. I hope that's the only time they have smiles on their faces. Cool, you beat a bad Cincinnati Reds team. You won the Ohio Cup. Congratulations. Kudos to you. I don't know. I haven't even taken a look at what the playoff picture looks like. I think so. They have that bye, so they'll play, I think, the Astros or who. I mean, I haven't looked at the playoff picture, but I'll be going for the Astros. I'll be going for whoever they play in the first round. I hope Cleveland loses.
Wow.
I want them to have zero success. I do not want to see a smile on any of their players' faces moving forward.
As of right now,
They're not going to play anyone in the first round.
Correct. It would be the second round. It would be the
But
winner
first, when they
it would be the winner of the Astros Tigers.
Well, that's what I was asking. It was the Astros or
Jimmy Collins.
Jimmy
The
Collins.
fighting Jimmy
Astros or
Collinses. Colli?
I don't know. It would be it would be the winner of the Astros Tigers. If the Houston Astros play the Guardians, it's over. So
go Cheaters or go Jimmy's Tigers. That's all
right.
I'm going to say.
That's right.
As far as that's concerned. But, hey, they'll have those cool shirts to remember this playoff clinching win
They will.
last night. But last night's game, obviously, I tuned in for a lot of reasons, not really because I was that interested in the game.
You tuned into the Reds?
Or the series, yes.
Oh.
I tuned in because I was really curious how they were going to handle. This is the first time they've played without David Bell in, 6 years, right? So I was really curious how they were going to handle some of the media, the media, how they were going to address it, or how the broadcasters were, and if they were actually going to put the players on the spot and actually air their responses. And there was a lot of interesting ones. Tyler Stevenson was very forthcoming with his response to it. He even said, hey, it's on us. We feel responsible. David Bell lost his job, but he lost his job because we didn't do our job. I thought that was an interesting comment. But Jonathan India, who is a very polarizing figure with this Reds organization right now, because we just can't tell. We know how good he is, but we just can't tell if he is going to be a part of the core moving forward. Every trade deadline, every offseason as of late has been really filled with Jonathan India. What are the Reds going to do with him? They come out and say, hey, he's a staple of the organization. They're not going to trade him. We thought he'd be traded last offseason. He wasn't. We thought he'd be traded this deadline. He wasn't. But with the way he spoke yesterday to the media, everyone's ears were perked up. Definitely caught my attention. But this is him. It's a short clip. Chatterbox Sports shared it on their X account yesterday. But there was something that he said that caught everyone's attention. Take a listen.
We can't, hang our head down. We can't, get upset. It's part of it. It's part of this cutthroat game we play in. And, I feel like there's going to be a lot of changes now in the offseason.
A lot of changes coming this offseason. The only reason that caught my attention with him is because I think we all know there's going to be a lot of changes this offseason. But when he says there's going to be a lot of changes this offseason, I think one of the biggest changes this offseason could include him. So I thought that was very interesting. But there was more to that quote. There was more that we did not share in that video, Elliot, that you and I were talking before the show started. There was an even more a longer quote. He kind of elaborated more, really sound like calling out the organization, not just holding himself and his teammates accountable, but the organization as a whole.
So this is Jonathan India yesterday. Quote, "We're tired of losing. It's the same thing every year here. We just float around 500 and try to make the push, but we don't have enough. We just need to make a move. I know what it is, but I just want to say it to the media." I love it. I love that quote. I think it starts with the players. If you want to call out some of the organization, do it. Because it is the same thing every year. It's literally the same exact thing every single year. Hope for 500 and maybe you sneak in. Pray for 500, maybe you sneak in. Go a couple games under 500, that way we can stay around 500 so we can barely get in. There's never let's go wire to wire. I know saying that's you can't expect to go wire to wire. But there's never we're the front runners here. Very rarely are the Reds the front runners. A couple times in my lifetime have they been the front runners in just the division. So, yeah, I love Jonathan India. I love this quote. You won't hear any other players say anything close to that. Probably all around Major League Baseball you won't hear a quote like that.
Baseball, this sport, you don't see that often.
No.
We've talked about with our Votto debates in the past. I'm asking something that doesn't happen. I'm asking something I asked something of Votto when he was here that just doesn't happen around the league. There's no precedent for it. That's why I didn't hear that, Elliot. So when you brought that to my attention, I'm like, oh wow, he elaborated even more on some of that stuff. Yeah, and I think, to be honest, so he talks about that, when he mentioned the fact that there's going to be some changes this offseason, he probably knows that he might be a part of that. So he's like, well, I don't know if I'm going to be here next year or not, but if I am, I'm going to let them know that, hey, if you say I'm a clubhouse leader, I think it's my job as a leader to put everyone on blast. We're not just going to fire David Bell and say, hey, we sucked because of him. No, it's saying, hey, everyone as a whole, we played a role in this. So he's saying, hey, if I'm going to be here next year, I feel like this is my responsibility as a leader to do this. Or I might not be here next year, so I might as well get my punches in now. I don't know what the motivation was, but I think regardless, it came from a good place. I don't know. You said it before the show started. You'd have to think that front office probably isn't happy with those comments.
No, I know they're not happy with those comments. And I'd imagine that they might take action because of those comments. They might not want a voice like that in the clubhouse, saying bad things about what's happened in Reds country over the past 20 whatever years.
This would be a roundabout way to get a massive win if they ship India off because of these comments. Don't love, the front office pushing back on players pushing back, because I think that's something that's great in professional sports where you have players that are willing to speak out. And I know we make the joke a lot about how Jonathan India is a leader and he's great, but he really is. I mean, he's willing to go out there and talk about what's going wrong with the team, even when he's not playing his best baseball, which I think is something that's very important for a leader, that you can do that when you're at the top of your game and when you're struggling a little bit. You have to still be able to stand up in front of the locker room, stand up in front of the media, talk about what you think's going on with the team, the direction that you should be going. But if the Reds end up shipping India off because of this, I guess I'll take it as a win.
Yeah, from that.
Jacob wants India gone
very badly.
I love Jonathan India. I'm not as, I don't feel the same way as Jacob as far as that. But it is one of those where if they do move on from him, I'm not going to like bash the organization or say, what the hell are you doing? But I wouldn't mind seeing him here next year either. I'm kind of in the middle. I would understand it if they moved on. It's kind of like with the Bengals with the T. Higgins thing. If I'm a Bengals fan, I don't want to see T. Higgins go, but you kind of understood. Maybe now's not the time to talk about roster, but you kind of understood the direction in the decision making with that. That's kind of where I am with Jonathan India. Now, I don't want to get into that Votto stuff, but like this was the stuff I was like saying, hey, I like when my players do this. It's not done often. Will this make a difference? I don't know. But I do think you're going to get an influx of, and Jonathan India was already a big fan favorite with Reds fans to begin with, but I think he's going to be beloved even more now because it's one thing like Castellanos saying things that he did out of Cincinnati. He had already been moved, they didn't re-sign him. They didn't even, get a deal done. They moved on from him, this, that, and the other. Other players do the same thing. The Trevor Bauer stuff, making the comments he did. But he's no longer a Red. Castellanos is no longer a Red. As we sit here today in late September, Jonathan India is a Red, and I really respect the hell out of what he had to say because I think that does put a lot of pressure on the front office. I think he is saying what we all are saying. Jonathan India said exactly what we all as fans are saying. There was about a month ago when you had the Barry Larkin comments during the broadcast that caught everyone's attention. It was kind of they were polarizing comments. It got people talking. We were like, man, I bet the front office isn't pleased with that. But that's the trend here. The front office isn't pleased with anything that makes them look bad, but that's the problem. I don't think Jonathan India made him look bad. I don't think Barry Larkin made him look bad. When Castellanos says what he does, I don't think he made them look bad. I don't think when Trevor Bauer said what he did, I don't think it made the Reds look bad. At the end of the day, the Reds make themselves look bad, and that's why when Nick Craw addressed the media last week saying something along the lines of, don't forget, we're a small market team, and we're going to continue to operate as a small market team. I felt like those were shots to the fans, like, don't get your hopes up. You better sit down and shut your mouths, and you better cheer on the mid-value guys that we're going to get in the offseason. Don't expect any big splashes. Maybe I'm being a little emotional. I'm pissed off right now about it, thinking about it. But, like, that's the vibe I got. I don't know how you guys took that quote, but when he said, don't forget, we're a small market team, and we're going to continue to operate that way. I felt like that was like a warning shot to media, fans, and everyone. Hey, don't get too excited about this upcoming offseason.
I think that's an infuriating quote, but I'm not going to spend too much time talking about it.
See, I wasn't really mad at it
because we know what they are. I just think saying we're a small market team, I'm aware it's the reality, but I don't think you can hide behind it when you never win. If the Reds did things the right way for 30 years and you made the playoffs every good handful of times, you had winning seasons, and you were doing things the small market team way, I'd agree with it, and you can say it.
Fair.
But you can't hide behind that excuse in 6 winning seasons, in 4 playoff appearances. You can't hide behind it.
I think it's a good point to make if you're Nick Craw when fans are banging the table for major offseason signings this offseason. He's basically saying, hey, you guys need to realize what we are. We're not going to be competing for guys at the top of the free agent market, and that's just the reality for this team. And it's going to be for the entirety, whether they're here in Cincinnati, whether the owners of the Castellanos or not. You're not going to be able to compete for the top-level free agents because that's just how the MLB's set up. And if there's an issue with that, then that needs to be taken up with the MLB, and I think it is. I think a lot of people are really mad about how the MLB is set up these days and how the discrepancy between the top teams and the bottom teams is really getting, lengthened out when it comes to top-level talent going to just 3, 4, 5 cities. It really is a problem, but I think Nick Craw is more just saying, hey, guys, let's not even think about circling the top 5 guys in the free agency or anything like that, and then get upset when we sign a Jeimer Candelario or a Frankie Montas, because that's the same kind of level player that we're going to continue to go get, because it's the only option we have.
So that quote from Nick Craw, that was before Jonathan India spoke yesterday. You could hear the frustration. It wasn't like I'm angry and it's not like he's like being disobedient as a Reds player. I think he's just speaking his truth. I think, being a leader, as we talked about to a certain extent there, but I wonder if he's saying those things because of what Nick Craw said. Because, Jacob, you're not wrong. Like, he's actually stating the truth. Hey, we're a small market team. And we all don't expect them to go after the biggest free agents in the offseason. But, man, can we at least effort for one? Can we at least make it look like we're trying? But, Elliot, love your point as well. If this is you look at the Rays, you look at the Guardians. The Guardians have operated as a small market team, and they have success a lot. If their GM comes out and says that, their fans aren't batting an eye. They would like them to be more aggressive in free agency, don't get me wrong, but there's a little bit more trust there. There is no trust established between the fans and the front office right now. So when I hear that, I'm a little disgruntled was the word I was looking for earlier. I'm disgruntled when I hear the GM of the Reds say that, president of baseball operations say that, because to me, all I'm hearing is, oh, that sounds like an excuse. To where when the Guardians say that is, oh, well, they operate like a small market team. Well, I trust how they've been operating.
100%.
I wish they'd spend more. But, yeah, that trust is not there.
Look at the results the Guardians have and look at the results the Reds have. Both small market teams, both operate the same way. One team does it right and the other does not.
Yep. All right. This is Off the Bench presented by United Dairy Farmers. Justin Kinner, Casey McAllister, Elliot Rearing, Jacob Tissett with you here. Chatterbox Sports on YouTube, ESPN 1410 Wing AM in Dayton. Hope everyone's having a great Wednesday. I thought it was Tuesday for a moment, but it is Wednesday. But we'll step away for a few moments. We got Elliot's headlines and got a lot of weird things happening in college football that involves UNLV. I know we got a lot of UNLV fans here in the Dayton, Cincinnati area. But this
Casey
is Casey, big UNLV fan?
Yep,
nice.
Love them.
Nice. Well, this involves their football program, but it's not really a UNLV football story directly. It's kind of a sign of things that could come across the college football and college athletics landscape. We'll get to all of that coming up next. This is Off the Bench. All right, and we are back. This is Off the Bench presented by United Dairy Farmers, ESPN 1410 Wing AM in Dayton, and of course Chatterbox Sports on YouTube. We will run the sounder, Casey. We will have the sounder. We will set up our guy here for the next part of this show, of course. We'll get caught up. Again, we spent all Monday talking about the Reds moving on from David Bell. We spent all of yesterday not unfortunately talking Bengals, just unfortunately talking about the Bengals dropping to 0-3 on the season. So there's a couple things we have to get caught up on a little bit, including a big college football story. So let's get to Elliot's headlines.
Elliot loves three things: Joey Votto, David Bell, and leading off the bench with top headlines.
We got to get that updated.
Yeah, we're going to have to change that. I don't even know what I can't do Bengals players either.
Joey Votto's retired and David Bell's no longer a manager. I mean, that thing got outdated quickly.
The Reds, as Kinner mentioned, they lost the Ohio Cup. Guardians win 6-1. Cleveland clinches a first-round bye with their victory. The Reds had 4 big hits in the game. Good for them. Carson Spires threw 4 innings, gave up 5 hits, 3 earned runs. His ERA is now 5.46. Ian Jabot, though, he made it back, finally, and he delivered a bad outing. He gave up an earned run. His ERA is now 9. So good try, Gib. They're back at it tonight, where it's Jacob Junis taking on Joey Cantillo. Junis has a 2.6 ERA.
But he's the starting pitcher, right?
Sounds like it.
Oh.
But is he not?
No.
What is he?
He's a reliever.
Oh. It's tough. Around the league, though, Padres, I don't know if anybody saw this. They turned a game-ending triple play in the 9th to clinch their spot in the postseason. They beat the Dodgers 4-2. They turned the triple play right before Shohei Ohtani came to the plate. Kind of wild.
I have a baseball stat of all baseball stats from that game.
I'm excited.
You know how baseball stats are usually a little bit out there sometimes. This is a good one. The Padres became the first team in MLB history to turn a triple play, throw a no-hitter, hit back-to-back-to-back home runs, and come back from an 8-run deficit, all in the same season.
Really? How about that? Athletics, they take care of the Rangers in Game 1 of the final series at the Coliseum. I don't know if you guys have been reading some of the stories and what's going on there right now, but it's pretty much mayhem. I saw a video of a guy ripping the seats out of the ballpark, out of the venue yesterday. They're just going to take him home. The Rangers had a team meeting where they sat down and said what's going to happen on Thursday, because if you think about it, with the whole ballpark closing, and I imagine a demolition would be on the way, I think fans are just going to treat it like it's a party. They're just going to go there. They're going to probably run all over the field, because why wouldn't you, right? Yeah. I mean, I think about it like if Great American Ballpark was closing, that was at the final game, and they were shipping my team out of town, I'm going to run on the field. What are they going to do, ban me from the ballpark?
John Fisher, apologizes for leaving. We don't want to leave.
John Fisher's statement was one of the worst I've ever read.
This city wouldn't give me a stadium for free, so I'm going to go try someone else that will, so I can have my free cash cow I don't have to give any money to. And just keep making millions.
If you want a positive about the Reds, it's that we're not that bad.
Right.
We're not in the situation like the Oakland Athletics are. But I'll say this. I hope the fans just run all over the field. I hope they make it the biggest party of all time. Obviously, nobody gets hurt. We don't want to injure anybody. But why not make it fun? Go around the ballpark, hide in places. I don't care. Doesn't matter. Make it crazy.
I think the
one
Reds
last bang.
I think the Reds are moderately protected from ever being that bad.
Yeah,
Just because
I
they're
agree.
the first team in baseball history. I think the MLB will at least bolster them a little bit if they ever got to a point where they'd actually leave. That's why Phil's comments about where you're going to go and taking the team or whatever else never really resonated with me on that kind of level, because I just don't think the MLB would ever let the Reds leave Cincinnati.
But yeah, good for the Athletics. Hopefully they take the final game in Oakland to win the series. That'll be on Thursday in the afternoon. Thursday in the afternoon will be the
What a
series
send-off.
finale.
Thursday matinee.
Thursday matinee in Oakland. Good luck to them. Giants, they shut out the Diamondbacks 11-0. Diamondbacks slowly losing their playoff spot. Astros, they clinched their 4th consecutive AL West crown with a win over the Mariners. They win 4-3. White Sox, they come back to beat the Angels 3-2 as they postpone the MLB record for most losses in a season.
What if they win out?
I'm not going to lie, it'll be the most impressive winning streak of the year.
That'd be pretty cool. That was the White Sox first win after trailing through 7 innings.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Well, maybe they heating up.
Heating up at the right time.
Could
the
they
right
go on a
time.
run? This is the time of year to play your best baseball.
The Braves, they've lost another key member of their roster in a win over the Mets. They win 5-1. They are only a half game back now of the Diamondbacks, but they lose Austin Riley. Austin Riley has a broken hand. He's done for the year. That's it for baseball news. WNBA postseason continues tonight. An elimination game for Caitlin Clark and the Fever. They're on the road against the Sun, where Connecticut is a 6.5-point favorite. So good luck to Caitlin Clark.
I got to correct you. You said tonight it's an elimination game for Caitlin Clark and the Fever. Tonight is an elimination game for the WNBA because once Caitlin Clark and the Fever get eliminated, nobody's going to care. I know I won't, and I don't care being blunt about it. Did you see that they had like 1.4 million people tune in to her playoff game on Sunday going up against NFL teams? No other WNBA playoff game on that day garnered more than 500,000 viewers. That's wild. I mean, like, I know she's been breaking records all season, the viewership records, attendance records, apparel records, all that fun stuff. But I thought that was wild. I was really curious to see what those numbers were going to look like going up against the NFL, and just staggering. 1.4 million people tuning in to that game. One thing we talked about, too, not to get too WNBA heavy on the show, stop me if I go too far.
Yeah.
They do best at 2 out of 3 in their first round, but the higher seed gets to host the first 2 games. So, like, the Fever will not get a chance to, if they lose tonight, obviously they're eliminated. They won't get best of 3 is usually home, away, back to home.
Fever fans are going to get to watch Caitlin Clark.
I'm assuming it's travel reasons. They don't want to pay for the back and forth. That's because they don't make any money. But, the bottom line is
before
yes,
this year, they probably had the commercial flight schedule was too tough to schedule all that to get to stadium to stadium. They didn't have private jets until Caitlin got there.
We make a joke, but that might be it.
They probably don't have. Yeah, it has a lot to do with that. The travel schedules get a little dicey around this time of year.
How much power do you think she has? Like if she went to I don't know who the WNBA commissioner is, but if she said, I want more money, and if not, I'm going to walk. Because her walking would surely be the end of it,
She already had that opportunity. The Big Three offered her like $5 million, and she took the much, much cheaper WNBA deal because the endorsement said if she didn't play for the WNBA, a lot of them weren't going to
That's fair.
follow through.
I just wonder, as the league continues to grow, the WNBA, eventually it's going to be a point where it's like people are only watching for me. So if I want to step away for a year or two, I feel like somebody's going to have to pony up and pay her.
I think there's a legitimate chance that she could end up signing an endorsement deal with the WNBA.
Yeah, I think so.
And getting paid on top of her contract. Because then you get into the thing with contracts and how does it affect the salary cap if you're paying someone for views. So I think if she signs an endorsement deal with the league or with a broadcast network that carries the league exclusively or something like that, that's certainly a way for them to bolster her pockets a little bit while she's carrying the league, because she is.
In other news, Angel Reese revealed that she's single and that she will only date a man who is over 6'7". There goes my shot. There goes my shot. So for those of you wondering, she's only going to date someone that is taller than 6'7" and in the NBA.
So you're still right there in the mix.
It sucks so much. I'm not in the NBA.
Yeah.
I am a little shorter than 6'7". A little bit.
That's
our WNBA.
By the way, that was not news. That happened a week and a half ago.
But I forgot about it the last 2 days.
Well, you were on vacation, and then it was
But it really ruined my whole vacation.
Yeah, I'm surprised we didn't get that into the show.
That's what I'm here for.
That's right.
Angel
We
Reese
appreciate
news.
that.
Continue on if there's more.
There's no more.
There's no more.
Well, we do have one more, but I wasn't gonna be the one to do it.
You're talking about UNLV?
Correct.
Yeah, we have some other college football ones as well. Do you want to just get into UNLV now, or do you want to?
We'll take a quick little break
Okay.
and come back with this because this UNLV story is absolutely wild.
I see a lot of people in the chat saying we don't care about UNLV. This is a topic we don't need to talk about. I think if you root for college sports, not even just college football, college sports in general, this is a massive, massive story as it develops and something that we all should be paying attention to because it could really change the course of college sports.
I get when people say stuff like that, like who cares about UNLV, and I figured that was going to be something that got brought up. But I always look at it, how I approach these types of topics is okay, do we care? I don't really care about UNLV, but like, what if this happens there? This is a story that can happen absolutely anywhere, including in Cincinnati. Cincinnati, as Jacob has made very clear, the Bearcats is not a destination program. And if they have a quarterback that develops into a superstar quarterback, all of a sudden, if you're a Bearcat fan, I would pay attention to this UNLV story because I think it's something that could easily happen. UNLV is not a destination program, just like Cincinnati isn't. However, I think what's happening at UNLV could easily happen here. So, yes, I do think everyone should pay attention as far as that's concerned. But we'll step away for a few moments. Some people are confused. What the hell is this UNLV story you're talking about? We'll explain when we come back. More Off the Bench next. But yeah, 6'7". Like, why couldn't she have a little? Like, could she lower her standards just a little? I mean, man. Oh, hey, welcome back. Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers, Chatterbox Sports on YouTube, ESPN 1410 Wing AM in Dayton, Ohio. Justin Kinner, Casey McAllister, Elliot Rearing, Jacob Tissett with you here on this Wednesday afternoon/morning, depending on when you're listening to this nonetheless. But, Jake, I've kind of set you up a little bit with this because we kind of touched on this a little bit earlier regarding this situation. So everyone's doing this whole UNLV, who cares about UNLV? We're in Cincinnati, who cares? This is a college football story, and this very well could impact Cincinnati because this could easily happen at Cincinnati. It could easily happen absolutely anywhere. But everyone complains about NIL. Everyone talks about the downside of NIL. This could be one of those downside of NIL stories. It's turning into a big he said, she said, and I'm on the edge of my seat seeing how it's going to pan out because you feel bad for UNLV or you feel bad for this kid, or one of the two is going to look really, really silly when this is all said and done. I'll let you kind of set it up here.
Early this morning, about 3 a.m. Eastern, UNLV starting quarterback Matthew Sluka said that he will not play any more games for UNLV this season, said certain representations that were given to him regarding NIL when he committed to the school are not being upheld by the program. He's made the decision to redshirt for the rest of the season, enter the transfer portal after the season, and go at it again, try to get some more money at a different school and a different opportunity. So obviously the first response for many people, myself included, is that you're a quarterback of a 3-0 team, ranked number 23 in the coaches poll, inside the top 30 of the AP poll. You have an inside track, if not the favorite right now for the group of 5 spot in the playoff. Certainly one of the top 2 or 3 teams in that mix. A lot of people have you in their projected playoff, so you are a competitor in the college football landscape. We're not talking about, sitting out a bowl game that doesn't matter or transferring for a season that's already over. We're talking about a team that's healthily in the mix for a championship, and their quarterback's undergoing a red shirt because the NIL commitments that happened before the season are not being lived up to, at least he says. Shortly after that, it comes out from UNLV or from someone else, we're not exactly sure, but it was leaked that UNLV believes that they did live up to all of those expectations. And then after beating Houston and Kansas in the first 2 weeks of the season, Sluka and his agent, his newly hired agent, went into the office of the head coach and asked for a raise on those NIL funds, basically saying that our market value has increased now after these 2 big-time wins, and we want to be paid like it, even though what we agreed to before the season has already been met. If that's the case, then we're back to the Trey Hendrickson conversation of the offseason. Once you sign a contract, you're under contract. And then once you get out of that, sure, let's reassess and see where you're at that point. But if you agree to something and it's lived up to, you don't just have the right to go and ask for more money just because you play a little bit better. That's not right, because otherwise, the schools that give NIL funds, if the players are underperforming, they could just say, well, we don't want to pay you anymore.
Yeah.
So you have to live up to the contracts that you agreed to beforehand, but that does go for both sides. If UNLV agreed to give him a certain contract when he committed there, and they haven't paid him, and they've made it clear to him that he's not going to get paid that amount of money in the near future, then I don't know that I blame the kid for leaving. If your employer told you he wasn't going to pay you anymore, and you went to go find a new job, you stopped working, is that your fault? Are you quitting on your coworkers? Or has your employer effectively fired you by not paying you what you agreed to be paid?
Yeah.
I think it's going to be really, really interesting as the story unfolds, whether or not who's able to produce evidence of whether or not what was agreed to before the season, what has been paid, what's still being withheld. I think this is a very, very interesting story. We've seen it happen with a couple other players across college football already this year, redshirting after 2 or 3 games to preserve this eligibility and go enter the portal after the season and get some more NIL funds elsewhere. But this is the first example where we've seen it on a team that's in the mix for the playoff, in the mix for a national championship. And for UNLV to have to switch quarterbacks as you get ready for Saturday, the Mountain West opener, in a conference that you absolutely have to win in order to get into the playoff, this is a major change to the college football landscape just this year, and I think long term, because this is something that you're going to have to keep an eye on really everywhere now. I think you're going to have to, not just whether these freshmen, young players, young transfers are learning the offense and up to speed with play calls and everything along those lines, but you're going to have to be in an office with accountants throughout the week, making sure money's being wired successfully and funds are being lived up to and contracts are being honored. And it's just such a different landscape for college football than we've ever seen before, and it's truly not amateur sports anymore.
So one wrinkle to this too, the school has come out, correct? Have they released an official statement on this, saying that not saying he's lying, but saying that, hey, we have finalized all of our contractual agreements with him at this point, or at least in the off season heading into the season, correct?
I haven't seen an official statement from UNLV, but it was leaked that they, from a beat reporter in Las Vegas, that they lived up to the contract that was agreed to before the season regarding NIL. So still waiting on something officially from UNLV, but that certainly seems like the stance that they're taking right now.
So if that does happen, if that school comes out and says, hey, what are you talking about? We did give you what was contractually
It's being reported
agreed
from other people that he has gotten no money. So both sides are being backed up by viable reports right now from people that are trusted in the media. So I think it's very early to jump to conclusions, because it's completely crucial where I stand on this based on whether or not he got his money.
I'm looking at their Twitter account. The only thing I'm seeing right now is that they're having a coaches show tomorrow. They're having a coaches show tomorrow with Coach Odom. Anyone wearing Rebel gear at the coaches show gets a Miller Lite.
Very nice.
So I read to the comments. The comments say, will he leave the fans hanging to pay for their own Miller Lite like they did their quarterback? Listen, I don't know who's right and who's wrong here, because it hasn't been 100% reported either way. If the teams or the school said that they were going to pay a kid and the kid didn't get the money, that's on the school. He has every right to walk away. I don't know too much about college football. Is this going to be an NFL recruit or no?
He could be.
He could, but he's not. He won't be a high draft.
Not in this draft class
okay.
at all. No.
Okay. So my thing is college athletics, especially college football, is all about the money now. That's the way it is. It sucks if you're a fan of the traditions and everything like that, but that's what it is. College football makes a lot of money, and now the kids that are a part of these schools that people are watching, potentially a national championship contending team like UNLV, maybe making the top 12. So I think you look at all around it and say, all right, so this is how it's going to be now. We're all going to make money. I think it's brutal for the coach, the head coach, who has to now operate as some sort of financier, who has to deal with all this nonsense, because it's ricocheting back on him too. And I don't want to make the coach sound like a saint, because I don't know how involved he was in this. I don't know anything until the reports are 100% sent out there. We're still kind of in the dark here. But it's absolutely terrible that this is going to probably ruin a season of UNLV. I think about all the other guys on that team, and I'd imagine there's some frustration in the locker room now as you lose your best player, arguably. I don't know the roster of UNLV.
They might.
They
might get better. You
lose your quarterback, and it's brutal for everybody involved. But that's the way college sports is now. It's going to be like this. I wish it wasn't going to be like the salary type things that this appears to be. But I don't know. You can't walk it back now.
The one take with this whole thing, whichever side you stand on, I think is completely fair until more information comes out. I do think the one side that I think is very weird are the people that are saying, well, NIL has ruined college sports. We need to go back to the version where only TV networks and schools and coaches and old guys in offices profited from the game and not the players playing the game. I think that's a very, very weird take. I don't know why you would ever want a sport to punish the players for playing the game. I think NIL has been a phenomenal thing for college sports to reward players for working basically a full-time job and giving so much time and effort and sweat and blood and tears to the game, and they're finally getting rewarded for the millions and millions of dollars that they bring in. Are there bugs to it? Are there wrinkles in it? Absolutely. Is there stuff that needs to be fixed? Absolutely. But to act like college sports has been completely ruined by simply paying the players that make the sport possible, I think that's an insane take from this.
I think paying the players is 100% fine. I just wish the schools wouldn't do it.
And that's fair.
I like the schools being the ones that are in charge of all this. That's kind of where it draws the line. I think if a player wants to go get $1 million deal from whatever local car dealerships in the area, 1,000,000%. If you want to go sell your jersey,
and that's what it originally was supposed to be.
Correct. And if you want to sell your jersey on eBay, you want to sell a bobblehead, I don't care. Go do whatever you want. You can make as much money as if you want to start a YouTube channel and make punting videos, you go ahead and do that. But I think once you bring the schools in and now your employees, now it's a different type of thing. And that's what this appears to be, and that appears to be the direction this is heading. And I don't know about that. You saw it last year with, what was it, the Dartmouth men's basketball team? They're all employees of the university. I don't know the rules. I don't know how you can monitor all of it. In the NCAA, it just feels to me like they're botching it. And the NCAA has botched a lot of things. I'm not a big fan of the NCAA. But there's no way to control this as far as I'm concerned. Not right now, at least. The door's open. So I don't know. We'll see how this goes, but this is kind of a big deal.
The question I have is this, and do we have the statement that he released, right, Casey? Yep, so this is, again, the quarterback for UNLV that we're discussing here as far as that's concerned. And, again, so this is his statement that he just released. I've decided to utilize my redshirt year and will not be playing in any additional games this season. I committed to UNLV based on certain representations that were made to me, which were not upheld after I enrolled. Despite discussions, it became clear that these commitments would not be fulfilled in the future. I wish my teammates the best of luck this season and hope for the continued success of the program. The question I have is, we now know that schools can pay up to $20 million to their athletes, not to football, not to basketball, softball, male, female sport as a whole. Athletic departments they can pay their athletes. They have a $20 million allowance, if you will. They're allowed to spend up to $20 million on their rosters on their programs across the board. So what I want to know is for one, has that officially kicked in? Like, that's officially a thing now, right?
That I don't know.
That I don't know, so I can't speak to that. But if, let's just say that it is that what this is? Because if Jimmy and Joe's Chicken Shack promised him $100, and that's low, but you know what I mean? If they promised him $100 to come play at UNLV and they didn't give him that $100 and he's quitting on his teammates because Jimmy and John's Chicken Shack didn't pay him that money, that I have a problem with.
This is school collective.
This is school?
Yes, this is school collective. I just don't know if it's actually university funds or not. Like Ohio State's foundation, Alabama's foundation, all that stuff is not organized with the school, but it is the official collective. Okay. That's the same thing that's going on here. So he had issues with the coach, GM of the team, and a lot of the other people that recruited him because they thought that they pitched this deal from the team to him from this collective, and the team has fallen through.
I thought departments and I thought the schools couldn't have their own. They couldn't run their own collective.
They don't necessarily run it, but like the foundation at Ohio State is like ran by Cardale Jones. So like that's the football foundation, and if it's not technically an Ohio State equity, like an Ohio State piece of the university, but if there is an official one, everyone thinks it's that.
That's the problem I have with this then.
Yeah.
Because I like the foundation, and like I know when Ohio State's out recruiting, hey, you know, the NIL stuff, like that's what makes this dicey. When they're asking these programs for money, the programs as of now can't give you that money, but they're like, but we can put you in touch with the collective that will give you the money.
Right.
At that point, if the collective isn't giving you the money that you bargained with them, take them to court. That's an issue with you and them. not you and the school. If that's where the school could be like, what the hell? We're not associated with this directly, so why are you taking it out on us? The poor schools, right? Like that's where it gets kind of murky in these particular situations. The other thing, Elliot, I know you said you don't like the idea of the schools paying the players. The schools, I'm actually more in favor of the schools paying the players than these collectives, because the schools are the ones technically making the money off all this. If you want to talk about the new slime balls, it is technically the collectives.
Yeah.
The collectives are the new slime balls, because what they're doing is, hey, we're doing this for the program. We're doing this for the fans and the players. Donate to our collective. Not every dollar that's donated to this collective, they're operating as basically nonprofits. They're paying themselves to run this as well. They're getting a chunk of that pie. It's not like every dollar every money that you donate to is it to the collective or to Alabama or the school that you're.
I don't want to donate to 3 collectives.
Collectives. So a couple cents of every dollar of yours is not always going to a player.
Yeah.
It is paying those who help run the collective. They're the new slime balls. The schools are actually, they're just sitting back saying, they're just making money off the play. Like you look at Judkins at Ohio State and Will Howard, and you look at Smith and these star players. Ohio State's making millions of dollars off of these players, and they're not paying them a dime as of right now. That's why I'm in favor of the schools being able to pay them and not the collectives. The collectives are the new slime balls, in my opinion.
I also think that'd be a way to
creating this
protect
mess.
players to a degree.
What's that? Yeah, because
you're going
directly
out and
associated
meeting
with the school.
meeting with Grandma Joe's Pizza Shop or whatever. Like those contracts are not nearly as ironclad and clean and legitimate as contract with an actual school. So I think shifting it back to the schools is going to be a way to save it, because you're going to be able to put more regulations on it. You can't. The NCAA has no control over other outside businesses, and I think if you put a little bit more of that onus on the schools to pay their players, then you have a little bit more control about what's going on. You can track it a little bit easier. You can see how the money's changing hands, how the meetings are going, and I think that's a big issue with it now, is where are these players meeting these random donors? Where are these negotiations taking place? Are these back alley deals to get recruits done when they're 17 years old, juniors in high school? Or is this are students who are enrolled and on other teams' rosters taking visits and meeting with these guys off campus to negotiate funds? I don't know. I think getting it back to the schools could be a way to save the purpose of NIL.
Theoretically, I agree, but my issue is when it comes to the sports that aren't basketball and football. Once you start going into the tennis team, and the tennis team sees, the football team, they're getting paid on salary. I want to get paid on salary. If you don't pay us in salary, we're going to leave. We're going to walk. We don't want to walk. And that's fair.
This is where I feel like you and I are going to be on the same page.
And you can do that.
Make money then.
And again, that's 100% fair. But I feel like if you eliminate all sports teams that aren't, the main ones are the ones that make money, I feel like the NCAA would step in, or somebody's going to step in and say that's not right. And there's going to be different sort of arguments against this. I'm not saying I'm pro or against either side. I'm just saying it's going to be a problem when the bowling team or the field hockey team wants a somewhat level salary. Who regulates that? Who regulates the salaries from one college to the next? Why is one college, they're paying their employees $50 an hour, and we go to UC and they're paying them $75 an hour? And I don't know how you regulate all that.
You don't. It's not an even playing field, and that's the purpose of it. Some schools are going to be able to pay more, and some schools are going to be able to pay less. And NIL is not going to be the one that kills those nonprofit sports. It's realignment. What's going to kill swimming and bowling and tennis is having to take a 12-hour flight from Los Angeles to Piscataway, New Jersey, to swim a few laps. Yeah. Pay out of your pocket, miss 3 days of school for a sport that you're not going to play after college. That's the realignment is what ruined the chances for those nonprofit sports to be saved. I think they're already trending downhill, but I think the only thing that could end those sports is if those athletes end them. I think if those athletes say we need to get paid like football, that'll end those sports. I think that's pretty cut and dry. The only thing these athletic departments care about is football and men's basketball, because those are the only two things that make money. And it's honestly the only two reasons that those other sports can be played. So I think as long as those guys, and they're going to be able to get, outside deals, like with those mom and pop shops and everything like that, the local car dealerships, everything along those lines. And that's going to be their way to make money. And I think that's still a good thing. But if any of those nonprofit sports think they should be getting paid like football and basketball, when those two sports are bringing money into the university, they have another thing coming.
So here's the deal: like they're organizations now. They could pay up to $20 million for all their, Ohio State, it doesn't hurt them. It doesn't hurt a lot of these, but like Cincinnati, they're not going to have $20 million to support other teams. I would find it, this might be a little controversial, horrible business if they didn't spend every single dime on football and basketball. If they wasted $1 on the feelings of some tennis player who feels like, well, what about me? I'd be like, what? I appreciate you. Here's your free education, but you gotta leave us alone. Like, we're dealing with the business side of this. I really don't care about the feelings of the tennis player, the bowler, whatever. And then where it gets really murky, how does Title IX play a role in this too? Because this is no Title IX, it made sense with the amateur side of it, but now we're talking big business. Do they have to sit there and say, well, we have to give money to the women's team or not? I'm not advocating that they shouldn't or whatever, but if that's the case, their schools will find a way out of that too if they don't have to. If you're not making us money, if you're not generating $1 for us, for me, Cincinnati, it would be the biggest waste of money to give $1 to any sport that is not football or basketball, from my perspective. Right or wrong, that's just the reality of it. Ohio State will be fine. They're going to have up to $20 million. Cincinnati won't. So if they can get up to $8 or $9 million to pay their football basketball team, it's bad business to waste $1 on any other sport.
I 100% agree.
I just feel like it's a bad precedent to set. And again, it's the way it's going. So whether or not I want to stop it or not, it's going to happen. I just think that, when you veer so far away from it being the college experience and you have other college programs, and again, not all schools will be affected by it. It's the bigger schools, obviously, but I don't know. We'll see. I think taking away sports programs or willing to lose sports programs because you're unwilling to fund them because you're focused on the football team and the basketball team.
You're unwilling to pay the players extra. You're still funding the programs.
Okay. So you would still – but
he's saying of the NIL funds you have, giving any of that to nonprofit sports would be a mistake.
I see.
We're not saying cut those teams.
I see.
I'm saying cut those teams if the players require payment to keep playing.
I'm on it now. I got it.
But it's just not giving your NIL funds to those.
What he said. Get him. No, we're good. This is off
cutting the teams would be a terrible decision. I don't want you to think I'm in that boat. I'm just saying.
But we say that because we don't want to sound like jerks. But the bottom line is, when's the last time we went to the Bearcats tennis match? Go Bearcats! Woo! Woo! I'm just saying. You can't do that.
You see.
It's just your slander hurts.
Did Pitt's quarterback do that?
Your slander hurts my feelings.
That's just oh man, that's mean. All right, Off the Bench presented by United Dairy Farmers.
Alabama can't lose this weekend.
We'll be right back. All right, Everett Henry and I usually have a lot of beef on social media. I've never met him. I know he's a great dude. I don't know him.
Stand-up individual.
He made me laugh really hard with this comment in the comment section. He said that my wife asked what I was thinking about when I couldn't pay attention during Rings of Power last night, and I said, I just wish Joe did more. I know he was very salty about the Tom Brenneman take yesterday, and I don't know why. I laughed pretty hard at that, so shout out to Everett. I know you're not a big fan of mine, but I'm a fan of that. That was hilarious. That made me laugh here today. How are we feeling today about all that, though?
Good.
I had callers yesterday that were actually talking me off the are we overreacting a tad? Are Bengals fans overreacting a tad? Because they were not. I could see if that defensive performance that they had against Washington was the same one against the Patriots and the same one against Kansas City. I had some callers kind of talk me off the ledge. I'm like, well, you're kind of right. It's not as if we've seen this for 3 straight games. That was just absolutely atrocious. But now that you've had a little bit more than 24 hours to digest it all, are we overreacting a little bit to we could say they had a bad the Texans got dismantled this past weekend. They're still as Super Bowl contenders in the eyes of a lot of people. They check off a lot of boxes. Are we overreacting slightly to what we saw yesterday? Casey has his hand up. I'm going to go to Casey.
Yeah, I mean, I just wish Joe Burrow did more on defense. That's what I took away after 24 hours. I wish that he played lockdown corner, was able to stop Terry McLaurin from catching a pretty ball in the back of the end zone the final play of the game. That's basically my takeaway after 24 hours. I'm still in shambles, if that wasn't clear. I know what you're saying. Like, it was one game, but like Jacob said yesterday, it just feels like, and I know feels is a objective term here. It just feels like this is what we're gonna get for the remainder of the season because there's no hope. Like, there's no one in the wings waiting to return that's going to change what happened to them on defense on Monday.
On Monday, though, what about the previous 2 Sundays? Sorry, Jacob.
I don't care about the Commanders' loss anymore. I'm all the way over that. It's the fact that we're 0-3. 0-3 is the only thing that matters. Losing to the Commanders, but like that, the way we lost, if that exact same game happens and we're able to beat either the Patriots or the Chiefs, I'm already over it and moving on to the Panthers and saying we win this game, we're 2-2, and we're right back in and nothing matters about the past, and we'll be right back in the mix. But the fact that we're 0-3 is why I'm having such a tough time getting back in, because you have to go 10-4 the rest of the way to even have a shot at getting into a wild card spot. I think the saving grace, and I said it last night on Chatterbox Bengals, I think the saving grace is I don't think the AFC North is even close to the best division in football. I don't think they're necessarily very good. I think the Ravens are definitely the best team, and I know we're going to get into contenders or pretenders here in a second. Spoiler alert, the Steelers are not a contender, and I don't think 3-0 is going to have them at the top of this division at the end of the year. I think it's going to be the Ravens, and we're just 1 game behind them. So there's still definitely an opportunity for the Bengals to get back in the mix, and I am completely over the Commanders' loss in terms of focusing on that and how it's going to affect the rest of the season. It's just the fact that we're 0-3, and it's such a big hill to have to climb back up.
Yeah, and no, I'm sorry. What?
Well, I was just going to add, I will say the 0-3 stat that everybody keeps repeating, it does apply to the old schedule. It applies to the 16 games, not 17 games. So there is some wiggle room there that the other 98% of
and
that
a smaller
statistic
playoff.
And a smaller playoff. So that statistic's a little bit skewed. If you want to be the positive, I think Kinner's right on. I don't think the AFC North is as good as it was last year. I think the Ravens are not going to have as good of a season as they did last season. I think the Browns, respectfully, again, Kinner, no offense. I think their quarterback play is so bad that I don't think they're going to be able to recover from it unless they make a change. Then we'll see what Jameis can do. I don't think the Steelers are as good as they are right now. A 3-0 against 3 bad teams. And you're holding everybody to 0 points, that's great. But when you have to play a real team in the playoffs, the Steelers don't win. And that's been a fact for a long time now. So the Bengals still have a door open. The window's not shut. It's cracking and it's going to break, but I think right now, if the Bengals can tread water, you beat the Panthers, you do your job, and then you bounce back the next week and somehow find a way to beat the Ravens. That's it. If you can get to 2-3, win these next 2, and you have to win the next 3 because if you can't beat the Giants, you can't beat anybody. If you win the next 3,
Giants beat the Commanders.
We call it that's true. We call it a wash, okay? We call it a wash, and we start right there. I'm not worried about the offense. My concern is I don't know the identity of the team anymore. I feel like I knew the identity of the team the last couple of years, and now it just seems like it's the Joe Burrow show. And if Joe Burrow doesn't throw for 400 yards and 6 touchdowns, I don't know if that's the recipe for success, and that's where I'm kind of getting frustrated because I don't know the identity anymore.
No, and that excuse me, sorry about that. No, that's fair. So you've said you've kind of over the Washington loss a little bit. I know that's been talked about ad nauseum over the last 24 plus hours, but I saw some others in the chat mention the fact that, kind of agreeing with Jacob, like it's not so much about the Washington game itself. It's just about the fact that now that they are 0-3. And now no one would have ever circled the Panthers game and say, oh my gosh, it's a must win. But
yeah.
I mean, pretty much in all scenarios, calling any game in September a must win is always met with laughter or some kind of mocking tone. But I think we can all agree that in a month where you're not allowed to call anything a must win, I think we can all agree that Sunday, the Bengals season is on the line on Sunday. It's going to be on the line the next couple of weeks. But, I mean, aren't they the same thing?
No, very different.
Just explain. If it's just for your mental health, that's fine. But
I'm not going to do that. But Monday night,
it's difficult.
Monday night was a must win.
It was a must win.
This one is a can't lose, and it's basically just emotions. If you're high on the team and have faith, it's a must win. If you are in the bottom of the barrel and want to die, it is a can't lose. And I think all Bengals fans want to die if we lose this game. So can't lose. Shout out Lamar Jackson because that's where I was on Monday night.
Yep.
Fair enough.
We'll see. We'll see where the Bengals go from here. It takes a big step against the Panthers. I want to say they're just going to shut them down. I want to say they're going to shut down Dalton, and the Bengals' offense will drop 35 again. I want to say that, but I just don't know if I believe it yet. So,
what happens if we lose a nail biter to the Panthers and then we skull drag the Ravens in primetime?
I'm going to be honest. If you lose
like 35-7,
I can't. I'm not even. I really can't even think about the Bengals losing to the Panthers. Andy Dalton's Panthers. I can't do it because that team is so bad. So bad. Yeah. Adam Thielen's now done too. Done for a long time. They've got a decent offensive line, so you're going to have to, again, win in a shootout. So it'll be the Red Rifle versus Joe Burrow. I don't know. I don't think the Panthers can beat the Bengals. I don't think so. So I'm going to say the Bengals are going to win, and everything's going to be right in the world. They're going to be 1-3, and they're just going to have to fight their way back.
What was the score versus the Panthers a couple years ago? It was like 40-something. That was like the 6 touchdown game Joe Mixon had. Yeah.
40-something to something else. Something less than 40.
I'm going to predict that.
Same score.
Same exact score.
Zach Moss, 5-touchdown game.
Sure.
Chase Brown.
Chase Brown coming out party.
I like that. Everett Henry, our good friend, Kinner's best friend, with a great stat in the chat that we talked about before the show a little bit. I was going to bring it up when we talked about Zach Taylor, but I think it's important to follow coaching trees as they spread around the league. We do it with Shanahan, we do it with McVay, we do it with Clint Kubiak, and how great those coaches are, we usually attribute to how great their assistants are across the league. So I know Press Taylor never coached with Zach, but they're brothers. They share a lot of genetics. I'll count them in there.
Okay.
The 3-0-3 teams in the NFL, Zach Taylor's Cincinnati Bengals, Zach Taylor brother, the OC of the Jaguars, and Zach Taylor's old offensive coordinator, Brian Callahan, head coach of the Titans.
Don't like that.
Question.
Not great.
Do we have any parents in here? Anyone have kids in here that we know of? Everyone? Okay.
Not.
But
some fur babies.
If I had a, if I ever do have kids, and the first kid I name is Zach, like, don't you find it like a big jump to go from naming your kid Zach to Press? Like, is Press his real name?
I don't know. Zach just a C is pretty wild.
Yeah, it's Zach without the H.
Zach.
Z-A-C
That's
is pretty wild.
That's messed up a lot of people in search engines. You know, I'm just saying it's messed it up a lot.
TikTok's auto captions don't know how to spell Zach Taylor's name. I'll tell you that right now.
But to name one of your kids Zach without a K, and then to name your next kid Press, I mean, that has to be a nickname. I don't know where that nickname would come
Let's
from.
find out.
Presley?
Well,
okay.
That would make it less fun. No, his first name is not Presley.
What is it?
Does anyone want to take a
Oh,
guess?
no. Impressive. I mean, what do we got here?
Sherwood. Sherwood Press Taylor, born January 13th, 1988.
Let's get real weird. Is Zach's real name? You know, I mean, you would have to because that does Press
Zachary
Sherwood,
William Taylor, born May 10th, 1988.
That's boring. Hey, my name is Press, or my name's Sherwood, but they call me Press for short. Like, what do we? Like,
well, the best. While we're on NFL names here, the best C.J. Stroud.
Yeah.
You know what the C.J. stands for?
What's that?
Coleridge Bernard.
You know, it's silent B.
Coleridge Bernard Stroud.
Where's the J?
Oh, that's right.
Okay. Well, listen. CJ, I like CJ.
So there you go. But Sherwood, that I was not expecting.
No.
But
It's
Press has to be if he was a basketball coach and he had like a legendary press defense and they called him Press, that makes sense.
That'd be
but,
good stuff.
Is what it is. But all right, yeah, I did see that.
By the way, not that we'll talk too much about the Browns, but
let's.
Do you think the Browns will get a bounce back win against the Raiders?
So yesterday we had Jason Fitz, who used to be with ESPN Radio, now with Yahoo Sports, had him on yesterday, and he straight up said right now their best chance at winning is to put Jameis in.
Yeah.
And, of course, callers calling in and talking about that, Kenner, I bet that hurt having to hear him say to bench Watson. I'm like, no, I'm for benching Watson. If Joe Flacco is here, I think that noise would be – there's a reason Joe Flacco – the Browns – all signs are indicating towards the Browns re-signing Joe Flacco last year heading in. If he was willing to be a backup, he would have been a Cleveland Brown. He said he was willing to be a backup for the Cleveland Browns. They moved on because reports came out that the camp of Deshaun Watson did not want him there because if he got off to a slow start, that the noise would be loud to put Flacco back in as far as that's concerned. They moved on from Jameis Winston. The noise is there. But my thing is people say all the time, you can't bench Deshaun Watson because of all that money. I'm like, but it's all guaranteed.
Yeah.
So whether he plays or doesn't play, you are paying him no matter what. And the best thing he could do to help the Browns win is actually not playing. So you would actually get more value out of that $45 million a year by him not losing you football games than him being out there just because, we paid him a lot of money. I am all for benching Deshaun Watson. However, I think that this weekend is one of those wild games where I don't know if I'm willing to go out on a limb and say he's playing for his job after this weekend, but I will judge Kevin Stefanski. I will judge the Browns way more than what you all do already. if he is the starting quarterback after Sunday and he has a bad performance in a loss, I will have a hard time accepting him making another start without at least attempting to put Jameis back there. If DTR is all the Browns had as a backup quarterback, I would not be screaming for that. I would be like, I'll take my chances with Deshaun.
He looks so good in the preseason every
He
year,
did, but Kenny Pickett looked really good last year in the preseason, so I don't fall for the preseason tricks. I get that. But for right now, no, I think Jameis Winston should be looked at as the starter after this Sunday. This coming up Sunday, I'm not for Jameis starting. I think Deshaun, you get one more. I thought he made some good throws this past Sunday. I'll leave it at that. I'm not defending him. I need to see him. He's gotten better each week.
Yeah.
You have to get better. You can't get any worse than what you did when he started against the Cowboys. But if he has another fumble like we saw last week, not an actual fumble. He had 2 of those, by the way. But if we see another bad start, I'm going to be screaming for Jameis Winston after this Sunday because that's their best job. Look, this offense, everyone talks about how bad the offense is. This is the offense that averaged over 300 yards a game through the air last year, 100 yards plus on the ground, multiple touchdowns a game, and one of the most explosive offenses for the final month of the season with a different quarterback out there. And so at this point, yes, I am all for them looking to make a quarterback change after this week. But I don't want to hear they pay him a lot of money. It's hard to do that. It's all guaranteed. And you have to give it to him whether you start him or not. It's not based on whether he plays or not. You have to give it to him. You at least give your fans and give your organization a chance at winning while you have that. They have the luxury of having a rich owner that has been able to pay guys up front to load up the roster despite the contract. Go out there and give your team the best chance at winning. But, yeah, bottom line is we're going to have one hell of a draft special come April if things don't change in Cincinnati and Cleveland anytime soon. So there you go.
Travis Hunter.
But you want him in Cleveland, dude?
No.
But did that answer your question?
It did.
Okay.
We'll see. We'll see how the playoffs shake out. I don't think the Browns will get. Well, respectfully, of course, I'm going to say this with all the love.
That they need to get.
Maybe Nick Chubb can save him because there's a chance Nick Chubb saves him.
They have the side of the ball that I'll always say gives them the best chance at winning moving forward. It's the side that you guys are lacking, which is
That's
like
true.
even with the explosive. Like if you look at the blueprint across the board, I mean, I tell you what, let's pick about this on the other side because I do have a question. We always talk about the blueprints in sports. What's the blueprint to win? Is there actually a blueprint in the NFL? Is there an actual blueprint in the NFL to be a Super Bowl contender? That's the big thing because I throw it out there all the time, and then people always combat it with, well, that's the Chiefs. You can't use them as the blueprint. You can't use the Patriots of the previous dynasty as a blueprint. So is there a blueprint? And are the Browns, Bengals, are they following a particular blueprint that should lead to success? We'll talk about that coming up. I know Casey has his housekeeping items to dive into, so we'll get to that coming up. Again, this is Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers.
Hey, chat. It's that time again. Time to pay bills around here. And you know what we start with? Pawnee water. Do you need some Pawnee water, Elliot? Do you like Pawnee water?
Yeah, throw it over here.
Holy.
Nope. Did you see that catch?
That was freaking awesome.
Did you see that
You
catch?
know what I want to cut that when he caught it, and then I want one of Jacob's reactions during the Chatterbox Bengals. Oh my God! That's what I'm Kirby. If you're watching, I'm requesting an edit. That was athlete written all over it.
Well, it bounced off the wall too. I don't know if you guys saw that, but that was pretty incredible. So I'll throw it back to you now.
Okay.
You ready?
How sure are we about doing this? Elliot's not going to throw it.
You ready?
See, I overthrew it because I didn't think I would.
Oh!
Man, Cedric
It was a
Tillman.
good throw. It was a good throw. You were just focused on the camera.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Oh!
To be fair, it was a little Joe Burrow-esque. He overthrew it, to be honest.
Okay.
It was like T in the back of the end zone. That's all I saw.
Need to be perfect.
Yeah.
Had to be perfect. You know what is perfect?
Pawnee water.
Pawnee water.
No
Made
rocks.
right here in Hamilton, Ohio. Uses natural limestone filtration, unlike the artificial processing other brands use, the result being a healthy alkaline water. And some say the best tasting water in the world. Visit Pawnee Water at PAHHNI water.com so you can buy this great tasting water. And like Jacob said, no rocks.
Not one.
Not one. No gas in it either. No chemicals, nothing like that.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's good.
And no rocks.
That's
all
good.
that.
Usually when I buy my water, I look for the ones that specifically say that there's no poisonous gas because obviously they would say that.
So
there's some water that has.
So a little about me. my house.
A little bit about Elliot.
I don't know if anybody heard about. There's a little train incident by Cleves.
Choo-choo.
By Cleves. And it's right by Taylor High School, if you know that area. And a dangerous gas or whatever the hell it is leaking out of a train car. So I'm not close enough to get evacuated out of my home, but I am a couple miles away. I think 4 miles away from that. So it was a little testy last night, worrying about whether that thing was going to explode or whatever those train cars do when a dangerous gas is leaking. So hopefully that doesn't happen, and hopefully, as far as I'm concerned, I've been reading the news, and they say they've contained it for the most part.
Whoopee.
So hopefully we get those roads back open and everybody's safe and the air gets clear. But it is a little bit scary. It's a little bit scary.
I'm sure Pawnee Water would come in to save the
I
day.
would hope so.
I'm sure they would. Because they're great. Pawnee Water. Shout out to them. The Bengals Report, proudly sponsored by Encore Technologies. At Encore Technologies, they deliver cutting-edge IT solutions for a data-driven world, mobile computing and desktop support. To advance data center solutions, they help businesses enhance efficiency and
Productivity.
Visit
Productivity.
Encore.tech where your path to innovation
You're buffering.
begins. Game Time, the ticketing service app that we are sponsored by. Love Game Time. Used them all summer long. I will continue to use them for Bengals tickets. They've got great features. Pricing's all up front. You can see exactly where you're sitting at. They have the Game Time pick filters. Helps you get all the fluff out to show you only the incredible deals that you are looking for on great seats so that you don't have to waste time searching through the thousands of tickets. They got super deals on tickets all throughout the football season. Especially like primetime games, those usually go on sale, or like the semi-primetime. How do we feel about 4:30 games? Are they semi-primetime?
Depends on who you play.
Depends on who we play. I know they had some great deals for like Eagles tickets. I'm sure they'll have great deals for the Ravens game coming up here shortly. So check out those great deals. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code OTB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code OTB for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. What time is it, fellas?
Game time.
What time is it, fellas?
Game time.
What time is it, fellas?
Game time.
It's game time.
It's game time, Casey. That's what time it is.
It's game time. Download Game Time today. Other housekeeping items. Today is Wednesday, right? So we're going to be doing box lunch after this.
That's right.
Whoopee.
And Jacob, you had a show yesterday. You want to plug that?
I don't know if that's necessarily how plugs work, but yeah.
So if you could go back in time.
Yes, if you could go back and watch yesterday's show live, go ahead and get in your time
Is
machine.
it not in a podcast
But if you
form?
can't, you got to let me finish.
Okay.
The plug
We
wasn't
would
done
appreciate
yet.
the live views. So if you have a time machine, please utilize it. Go back and watch the show live last night at 6 p.m. But if you don't, it's out now in podcast form everywhere you listen to podcasts. So make sure you tune in, and tomorrow we'll have another show. So if you somehow can't listen to podcasts, just wait until tomorrow and we'll be back on YouTube, 7p. Me and my good friend Craig.
That's awesome. Sounds great. I think that does it for all the housekeeping items around here. Please don't forget to hit the like button. We really appreciate it. We had a lot of great viewership the last couple days. Helps us grow whenever you like the button and share it with a friend. So we really appreciate it, guys. Other than that, I think we're ready to go back to Radio Land.
Real quick, a lot of people commenting on both of your shows of athleticism a little bit ago. But, Reed said elite target right there. Nice catch, Elliot. Odell Rearing.
Thank you.
I mean,
That's what they call me.
Yeah. So a lot of people very impressed.
Look at Odell Rearing.
So
Odell loved the Browns. Odell's dad really liked the Browns, too.
Well, Odell does love the Browns.
respectfully,
Just
right?
not the ones in Cleveland.
Respectfully.
Respectfully. Thank you. That's all I asked for. Little
You
respect.
got that?
I got it.
Thanks.
I didn't hear. What did you say?
I said Odell loves the Browns, just not the ones in Cleveland.
Nice. Wait. What?
A little
Oh,
poop.
yeah.
A little
Because
poo-poo.
yeah.
A little poo-poo. Did you not hear the poop story?
People poop on him.
All right. We'll be right back. Nice try. I'm not typing that. Mouse Cops has 100 likes and Kenner is gone. Respectfully, of course.
Respectfully.
Yeah, if you guys get 100 likes, we'll fire Kenner today.
You know?
Respectfully.
That's like a UNLV promise right there.
Well, there's 30 likes right now. I have a hard time believing it's getting to 100.
Remember when you used to just inflict physical punishment on yourself? For
I do.
Like less than 100 likes?
And I held up, correct, and I held up on all those promises. Every single one.
Every single one.
Yeah, cricket wing.
Ate a cricket.
Someone
did.
Those crickets stayed in the office
people
far
did.
too long.
Now, if you could just eat flies to really help us out, that'd be great, because these flies are actually, it's been okay today so far, knock on wood. But, all right, I want to pick up with this, kind of changing it a tad. You had asked, you have no faith that the Browns can turn it around. And the Browns and Bengals both have significant issues, but they both have the opposite issues of the other team. The Bengals have a historically bad defense right now, or at least coming off of a historically bad defensive performance, and the Browns have the worst quarterback in the NFL statistically at this point. I can't defend that. I'm not going to defend that. That's just the stats. Facts don't lie. Which team, the Bengals or the Browns, has the best chance of turning it around? And obviously history will go against and work against Cleveland. No one's going to give them a lot of love. But the one thing about Cleveland that they have, well, the Bengals have the most important position covered. The Browns have the most important side of the ball covered. And I think having the most important side of the ball, when you talk about turning it around to make the playoffs, the Browns have the one side of the ball that is the most important when it comes to making the playoffs. Now, you guys have the most important piece as far as being a Super Bowl contender. The reason the Bengals will be looked at, for many, many years as a Super Bowl contender is because you have an elite level quarterback. But as far as a playoff team, the Browns have the most important side of the ball covered defensively, which is why I believe that they have a better chance than the Bengals of turning this around, mainly because they have options. Their defense is why they can turn it around, and they have an option to fix their number one problem being quarterback if they do decide to pull the plug on Deshaun Watson and go to Jameis Winston. They can tinker with things. They have options. They're gonna get David Njoku back. They're gonna get Nick Chubb back here in the next couple of weeks. They have reinforcements coming. They have options as far as how they could turn things around. To where Cincinnati, as we talked about yesterday, you just got, obviously, you've had technically Jamar Chase. We got T. Higgins back, and that opened up Jamar Chase, obviously. But there's really not a whole lot of tinkering you could do with that defense. There's not a whole lot of, his history tells you that they're not aggressive at the trade deadline, being the Cincinnati Bengals. They're not looking to spend money, so I don't anticipate them being super aggressive and going to load up on improving the defense at the deadline. I would lean towards Cleveland has a better chance of turning around their slow or bad start to the season than Cincinnati, just because I think they have options. Like I said, they have players coming back. They have a very important side of the ball covered with their good defense and good defensive players. I just think Cincinnati's problems aren't fixable in the immediate future, and plus being 0-3 versus 1-2 doesn't help them in that particular situation.
Yeah, I certainly don't disagree necessarily that the Browns have more of an ability to tinker with their issues than the Bengals do, but I do at the end of the day think the quarterback is 40% of your chance to make the playoffs or so, 50% maybe.
I think it's more of a chance to win the Super Bowl. It's like you need
I can agree.
You need a quarterback to win the Super Bowl. You need an elite defense probably
to sneak in
the playoffs.
Yeah, okay.
I look at the Steelers right now. Does anybody in here believe the Pittsburgh Steelers can win a Super Bowl this year?
No.
But you think they can maybe sneak in the playoffs because their defense can shut teams down, especially early on in the season, and hopefully that stands the test of time as each week goes on. So maybe that is the method. I think you need a good head coach. The Steelers have that. I do think the Cleveland Browns have a good head coach. But yeah, Jacob's right. I mean, you have to have a good quarterback. If you want to win a Super Bowl, you need to have a good quarterback. That's a fact. But if you want to make the playoffs, I don't know. I think maybe a good defense helps more than having the world's greatest quarterback.
Yeah, especially you look around the league. I mean, some of those teams look, Buffalo, when their defense took a hit last year, look how drastically they fell off. Yeah. Well, they still had an explosive offense, but it didn't matter. That defense, fell off. Kansas City a few years ago, when Cincinnati when Cincinnati went to the Super Bowl that year, Kansas City was bad defensively. That was that year that Jamar Chase just absolutely torched them. Joe Burrow torched them. I mean, they didn't even play anyone in the fourth quarter. I mean, that's how bad they torched them. Well, they still have they're winning because of Patrick Mahomes. Well, they won because they they lost because they didn't have a defense that year. So defense is the most important part of the ball that has to be fixed if you're Cincinnati. They just don't have the options to do that. So, yeah, and like you talked about, even with the Pittsburgh Steelers, like their offense is one of the worst in the league.
Yeah.
I mean, they're averaging 1 touchdown a game, which is the worst in the league, which is pretty wild. So, again, they're 3-0, though, because of that defense, keeping them in the game, and, again, just not turning the ball over and those types of things. But, yeah, I think – Cleveland has the best chance to turn it around. I don't necessarily mean that they're in a better spot, big picture, than the Bengals, but for right now, I think for the immediate future, this season, respectfully, I think it's the Cleveland Browns at this point. Casey, what about you? The Browns or the Bengals? Who has the better chance of turning it around this season? Bengals 0-3, Browns 1-2, both not feeling good about themselves coming out of Week 3.
Oh, man. Turning it around. So making the playoffs, I think the Browns probably have a better chance of making the playoffs because I think they've got most of the pieces figured out. I think that they can get by without sub-quarterback play and still manage to scrape their way into the playoffs. I think the Bengals have a better chance of winning a Super Bowl, but it's going to be a tougher journey to make it to the playoffs. And what I mean by that is just I think they have less of the roster figured out, but they have the most important spot figured out. And I think Joe Burrow can carry you a few games. I think he can be perfect, right? Where I know like many pundits have said, he didn't do enough versus Washington. Well, if he was perfect, he would have won the game, right? I think Joe Burrow is capable of doing that a few games, but he can't do it a whole season. So that's where I struggle with the idea of the Bengals turning it around because of how lowly I think of the defense right now. I do think that, again, I am holding out some hope that that the Commanders just ended up being this team that's just coming out of nowhere. I mean, we all kind of had them as maybe a wild card team potentially. We all saw the talent there, but I do think after Monday that I definitely underrated them significantly, and that gives me a little hope that this defense can maybe turn it around. So, long-winded way of saying I do think the Bengals can also make it to the playoffs. I'm going to go with the Bengals here just because of the quarterback situation. But
Did you just flip-flop?
Way to talk yourself into that one.
Did you just flip-flop?
Yeah, I flip-flop so fast.
Politician
Joe
Casey
Burrow,
over here.
it's just when you get a quarterback, like that's the most important thing, right? It's quarterback. So,
yeah, and the Joe Burrow is the ultimate, equalizer in that particular situation. And let me be clear about one thing too. I said the Browns have a better chance of turning it around because their defense. Let's be clear, their defense has been atrocious as well.
Yeah.
They have good defensive players, but they made Daniel Jones look like. I mean, the talk was, man, what an embarrassing loss to a bad NFC team making a bad quarterback look good, and then that narrative moved to Monday night. But I do think the quarterback on Monday night is significantly better than the quarterback that the Browns faced. But yeah, the Browns now they shut him down in the second half. Daniel Jones looked like Daniel Jones, but that first half, again, the Browns have been horrible in the first half. They, that Week 1 game against the Cowboys, absolutely embarrassing. They turned it around in the second half. Absolutely embarrassing first half against the Giants. They turned it around in the second half. The one thing that did not turn around, though, offensively, woofa. I can't defend it. I saw someone ask me about when they can expect to get Nick Chubb back. He technically, I think after next week or after this week, is eligible to come off the PUP list, but there's been no reports of him being ready to go by week 5.
Yeah.
I mean, he was squatting. I mean, what was the weight on that damn bar that was like bent over his shoulders? I mean,
maybe reconstructive knee surgery with one of the most gruesome injuries of all time. Maybe you don't need to squat 700 pounds in your rehab.
Browns fans are like, look at him, that's awesome, and I'm like,
right?
You think the Haslam and Andrew Barry are looking at that? They're not looking at the weight on the bar. They're just looking at that knee. Like
every time I see Eagles fans post Jalen Hurts squatting 700 pounds or whatever, they're like, "Oh, quarterback's so cool." It's like, I don't want my quarterback under a 700-pound bar. No. I guess most of his game is just pushing the line of scrimmage because he can't throw, so maybe they do need that. But yeah, something about key players doing those heavy lifts in season, it doesn't get me as excited as other people do.
Well, it also irritated me a little bit too because I see that and that looks impressive. So I'm like, let me get this straight, Nick Chubb. You can have 700 pounds on your shoulders and you're doing multiple squats. but you can't play for the first 4 weeks of the season. Like,
yeah.
So that was my, and I'm not questioning Nick Chubb, but I don't think that's the look or the flex that you think it is. I think it should lead to more questions. Like, how can you do that? And that probably wasn't the first time he had done it. Just the first time he had done it on camera, and he's probably done it a lot since.
Yeah.
He's probably doing a lot of crazy things like that. I'm like, why can't this guy play? Your team needs you right now.
How many reps of 500 are you doing before you post your 700-pound
like you're
rep?
getting up to 700.
You're working through your rehab of your second reconstructive knee surgery of your football career, and you're pushing 700-pound squats. Why is that a point that you're trying to work towards even, I guess, is my question. Like, why is that a barometer where you're like, I want to get back to squatting 700 pounds? I know athletes are always competitive, and you know what you've been able to do in the past, and you want to get back to that point so you feel your best. But I feel like Nick Chubb should be training for football and not for lifting. And it seems right now he's training for pure strength, and I wonder how that's going to come back when he gets on the field and tries to move laterally and things like that.
And that video came out before they announced he was on the PUP list. So I actually thought, oh man, if he's doing that, he's participating in practice. He's fine. He might be ready by week 2 or 3, and then they put him on the PUP list. They've actually been quiet about his availability as far as that's concerned. So who knows? I only have no problem with him still being on the roster, mainly because they restructured the deal. They basically did what the Bengals did with Joe Mixon 2 years ago, basically saying, hey, we can't keep you at the current rate, which Browns fans lost their mind. I'm like, you cannot financially prioritize that position. You cannot financially prioritize that position, and especially a guy coming off that type of gruesome injury nonetheless. But thank you for having a friendly Browns conversation. That was very nice, guys.
That was
fun.
That
was very nice,
See,
guys.
we can do these things.
We don't have to do that anymore for a while. I appreciate it, though. That was nice. That was nice. All right, so your top 5 favorite Browns players when we come back. No, we're good. We're good. What segment is this, 5?
This is the 5th one.
5th. Question, your guys' thoughts on this. So, Geno Stone, did you – no.
Go ahead.
No, I sent you the tweet from Geno Stone. Can you pull that up?
Yeah, I'll pull it up here in a second.
Okay. Did you guys see the tweet from Geno Stone?
I did.
People are mixed on this and the reaction to it, and I don't know how to feel about it either. I don't know if you should be annoyed when players go to social media to basically push back on backlash, or if you should feel good about it because, hey, they're pissed off too, and they want to get better as well. So Geno Stone last night tweeted this out, that y'all really don't be knowing anything that goes on, and it shows. All right, that was his tweet from yesterday, and basically this is coming out. You guys remember yesterday, right? Our show was earlier in the day, and we were talking ad nauseum about how bad that defense was, and of course, Geno Stone, one of the bigger additions in the offseason to help lead that defense. Of course, him and Bell, obviously, and Rankins. Geno Stone got me to jump out of my seat when he popped that dude right in the –
Yeah.
There was also some missed tackles that came along with that, but collectively it was a missed tackle.
He really got
effort.
his celebration in down 20 in the 4th quarter.
But, that tweet, I get it. He's frustrated. Those guys should all be frustrated. They're just getting they got beat up all on Monday Night Football, and then they're just getting beat up all day on social media on Tuesday yesterday. So – where are you at when players do that? Where I don't know who he's referring to. Maybe it's media. Maybe it's fans. Maybe it's
I think it's specifically us.
So, specifically
us. Yeah, Geno Stone was tuned in off the bench. He heard what we were saying about the defense, and he wasn't happy with it. Yeah.
But where are you at with the guys doing this?
He tweeted, to be fair, he did tweet immediately after this, he said, I feel everyone's pain, trust.
Everyone's what?
I feel everybody's pain.
Oh, I thought you said pain, trust.
No.
I feel everyone's pain, trust. He also responded to someone else that said, he goes, oh, you're just mad because blah, blah. And he goes, you're damn right. I'm mad. I effing hate losing. And I'm like, I like that tweet. I like that.
Yeah.
I like that frustration.
Played horribly. He was one of the lowest graded players on the entire defense. I think it was in the 40s. So I understand the people that are like, you shouldn't be tweeting like this after a loss, after the defense looks so bad, after you individually look pretty bad. But look, at the end of the day, I never have a problem with my players talking like this. I think it's fine. I think I would have a much bigger problem if he logs onto Twitter and he's like, hey, the defense was terrible this weekend and everyone's right to be upset about it. I would hate that way more. So I like this. I think Geno Stone's fine. I think he's trying to take a leadership role in this defense. And
David Bell would say, well, we made some plays that we liked.
Yeah. No, I think this is fine from Geno Stone, and I think it's in a roundabout way. We can go back to the Cam Taylor-Britt conversation from the last 2 weeks. I see a lot of people saying that they hate that he talks to the media the way he does with the defense playing like that. Couldn't disagree more with that. I love Cam Taylor-Britt talking to the media like he has. I think it's great for guys on this team to have a little bit of fire, have a little bit of energy, and not like the teams they're playing against. We've gotten to a point in professional sports now where guys are swapping jerseys on the field after playoff losses, and that's just not necessarily where I like professional sports to be. I know that's where we are, and I know that's the reality, but I like teams that have players that have animosity towards the players that they're playing against. And it seems like some players on the Bengals have that right now. Geno Stone not happy with how the game went, obviously. He's voicing his frustrations on Twitter, and we can argue about whether or not that's the right place for him to do so. But I think it's more than okay for him to have this take and for him to say it on his own platform and for him to be a little bit angry about people tearing down the defense. I certainly would be if I was the major free agency signing brought in to turn this team around, brought in specifically to eliminate explosive plays, and you've done exactly the opposite over the first 3 weeks. He's frustrated, and he wants people to recognize that maybe the issues with the defense are a little bit deeper than himself, because he's getting a lot of hate, and whether he should just take the brunt of that and wear it, that's, again, a different point. But I think he has the right to use his platform to get off whatever takes he wants, and I really don't have any problem with this whatsoever.
Yeah, when people get mad at, like when athletes, they walk off the field and then they'll go shake the opposing team's hand or the coach's hand or the quarterback's hand, I'm always like, I get why people are annoyed with that. Oh, it's a bad look. But think about, like, these guys aren't robots. Like, they're more emotionally invested into what they're doing than what we are. We know how emotionally invested. I mean, look how pissed off you guys are about the Bengals 0-3 start. How do you think these cats feel? So when that happens, we expect them to walk across the field and shake hands, hug, and act like everything's okay. But, like, I know when the Browns-Bengals play, I hate your team, you hate my team. After the results of some of those games, I don't expect anyone to be like, hey, man, great game yesterday.
Yeah.
That was good. No, like, oh, God, I have to hear Kenner run his damn mouth. That ticks me off. Or last week when the Bengals almost beat the Chiefs, although I would have been $400 richer, I was like, oh, Christ, I'm going to have to hear about that now. About the Bengals beating the Chiefs. So I'm going to be nauseous the whole time. But we want these guys to have no emotions and walk across.
Right.
So I like that there's emotion here, and that's the right emotion to have. I didn't have an issue with it. It was interesting seeing how everyone was reacting to that. I didn't have a problem with it as far as that's concerned.
I don't have a problem with it unless it continues and they're still bad. I like what Cam Taylor-Britt does is fine this week. It didn't work. Let's not say every team's defense is every team's offense is a college run offense, and then we get torched every week. That's when I get frustrated. Because it's just like we don't have to be doing this. I get what Jacob's saying. We want our guys to, fight and have some swagger and have some fun. But
see, that's what you guys.
It's hard to talk smack when you're 0-17.
But
we
that's
did
what
just get beat by a college offense, though.
Yeah, we did.
It's a college scheme. It's a college. He just watched his film and said what he saw. So
That's fair.
I don't know. I had a little bit more issues with the Xavier Worthy comments because that's just strictly attacking a player, saying he can't beat me, which I don't know how I feel about that. But look, if Kim wants to watch film and he doesn't think he sees a lot from the other side that impresses him and he wants to say that in a press conference, I'm going to stick up for him the rest of the season.
And honestly, some of these players are doing this because that's been the identity of the Bengals for a few years. Mainly, and I know this is about the Cam Taylor-Britt comments that we've transitioned to a little bit, but that's what made that Super Bowl run, those back-to-back years of the AFC title game run. That's what that team did. They all talked. Eli Apple is atrocious. He talked, and Bengals fans loved it.
I love Eli.
Eli Apple, he ran his mouth. People loved it. Jamar Chase ran his mouth. People loved it. Joe Burrow didn't run his mouth the way that they did, but he would say subtle things that, would rub people, or not Bengals fans, but rub the opposition the wrong way. So when Zach Taylor said, we don't do that here, I had a bigger problem with that than anything that the players said, because I'm like, yes, you do. You can't sit there and say we don't. You can't say we don't do that here, but when we're winning, it's okay. But when we lose, now all of a sudden we don't tolerate our players running their mouth. No, you do that there. I just wish Zach wouldn't have said anything at all. And by the way, he's been asked that before, like when Eli ran his mouth and he got torched. He just goes, well, that, we'll talk about that in-house. I went back and found that quote. He deflected it, but he basically called out Cam Taylor-Britt saying, we don't do that here.
Yeah.
And I think the players are confused. Like, yes, we do. We've always done that here. What are you talking about? So we'll see. All right, this is Off the Bench presented by United Dairy Farmers, Chatterbox Sports on YouTube, 1410 ESPN Radio in Dayton. NFL Power Rankings. We have that coming up next right here. Don't go anywhere. All right, well, week 3 of the NFL season is officially come and gone. So I know yesterday we spent the entire show with reaction to the Cincinnati Bengals. All of Monday was all to the reaction to the Reds moving on from David Bell. But we closed the book on week 3 of the NFL season. We'll turn more of our attention towards week 4 coming up. More on tomorrow's show. We'll actually get some college football in outside of the UNLV stuff. I think Sandlin put in some updates. Did you read any of that?
Yeah, so there's some updates
going
on with it.
You want to update people real quick? Everyone loves UNLV. So.
Sure. Yeah, so Bob Sluka, the quarterback's father, has been speaking to the media a little bit, going through Adam Rittenberg works for ESPN, and he's been talking with the father of the transfer quarterback. And Matthew Sluka's NIL representation has said that he was promised a minimum of $100,000 from UNLV to transfer there, and none of that was paid. He said the school and collective came back to him with a contract of $3,000 per month for the next 4 months. That totals $88,000, or that totals $88,000 less than what was originally given to him from UNLV. The money that they said they received from UNLV so far is just a relocation fee, so Sluka could move to Las Vegas. His housing hasn't been paid for. He's not getting any money from the school in terms of game checks, which is what they have discussed as well. It certainly seems like whether this was the plan for Sluka and his camp all along, or whether they're reacting to UNLV saying that they did follow those requirements. It seems like they're taking a very clear route right now of dragging UNLV seemingly through the mud a little bit, trying to do their best work of proving that this was promised, agreed to, and then not followed. So it's certainly an interesting story. There's going to be a lot that continues to come out, but it seems like the coaches and staff at UNLV are just simply not talking to the family anymore and the representation anymore, and not working with them to figure this all out. So I think it could get uglier before it gets prettier. It's certainly interesting, and really the first example of this on a big stage that we're seeing in college football. So a precedent-setting story as we follow it, as it keeps going through.
I'm surprised we haven't seen more of this. There's been some, but I think we're going to see more of this stuff. I think that's why it's important for these schools, as we close the chapter on this conversation about getting GMs. Adrian Wojnarowski, Wojbomb, right?
Yeah.
Like, that was huge news that happened last week. Adrian Wojnarowski, out of nowhere, one of the biggest NBA insiders in all of sports media, regardless of the network that he's with, he just abruptly retired out of nowhere, right? Just out of nowhere retired, and he's for St. Bonaventure. He is the general manager for their NIL collectives or whatever, if you will. So I think that's why it's important to get these, because they're basically leading these contracts. Like, I think it sounds like UNLV is just operating on a conversation-based type thing, and they don't have someone that's actually heading this. But nonetheless, it's not so much a UNLV story as it is a college athletic story that could impact Cincinnati or anyone. It could happen anywhere, nonetheless. But, all right, let's as we wrap up the radio side of the show, NFL. Again, as we sit here right now, again, just ranking our teams, looking at the top 10 teams in the NFL right now, our power rankings, or at least my power rankings. Casey, before the show started, basically called me out and said he was shocked. He couldn't believe my power rankings, and I guess that's the whole purpose of power rankings, I guess. But all right, let's take a look at them. Let's take a look at Kinner's NFL power rankings as we currently sit here heading into Week 4. I picked Buffalo initially when we did our preseason predictions to win the East, and then you guys talked me out of it, and then I was like, you know what? No, I'm not buying into Buffalo. But the whole reason I was buying into Buffalo is because of Josh Allen. Josh Allen, though, has lost trust with a lot of media, with a lot of fans, because he's a turnover machine. 3 games in, they're 3-0. He's not turning the ball over.
Yeah.
He doesn't have elite pass catchers. Their defense hasn't been elite, but it's been very, very solid. But I think, and I could be wrong, is there any team that has looked more impressive than Buffalo at this point of the season?
Absolutely not. The only way you have Kansas City above Buffalo is if you're grading a 3-year stretch, not a 3-game stretch. And I think through 3 games, Buffalo has looked better on both sides of the ball.
And the thing about Kansas City, the reason a lot of people are shocked Kansas City not being number 1 like pretty much everyone else's power rankings is because Kansas City is 3-0. They could very easily be 0-3.
Easily. The
Ravens, I mean, if that receiver, that toe is inbounds, they go to overtime, they could be 0-1. They could have easily lost to the Cincinnati Bengals 0-2, and we saw how they escaped this past weekend with another one-possession win. They could just as easily be 0-3 as they are 3-0. Maybe I have them ranked too high at 2, but I do got to give them a little of that respect too. Again, it is the Chiefs, but I couldn't put them at number 1. Buffalo has been the most impressive team thus far. I really like Detroit. I think Detroit right now, when you look at the wins that they have early on, they've put up a lot of points. They're a very balanced team, both sides of the ball. I trust Detroit. That's why I have them at number 3. We're 3 games into the season. There's a lot of teams that have some good wins, and they have some bad losses, but overall I trust Detroit because they look the same as they have in years past. They're running the ball at a high clip. They're averaging 200 rushing yards a game. Nice fix, dude. That was on the fly. I like it. What was it before?
It's not fixed.
It's not fixed?
It's still not fixed.
Oh, it's Detroit Lions.
Yeah, no breaks.
But no, they're averaging 200 rushing yards a game, 200 passing yards a game. They have a top 10 defense. Detroit is actually a very well-rounded team. I like their head coach. I like what they have going on. I have them at 3.
I will say this about Detroit. Did you see the score that got called back in that game against the Cardinals this week? So Jared Goff threw a pick 6 at the end of the first half. Tip ball, caught by the D lineman, ran back for an interception, pick 6, whole stadium celebrating. It's in Arizona, everyone's going crazy. The ref blows the whistle, says the ball was snapped after the 2-minute warning. So we're going to the 2-minute warning. It's going to be replay the down when we come back. There are a billion screenshots of 2:01 on the clock with the ball being snapped. And that pick 6 would have won the game for the Cardinals. So I wouldn't necessarily have the Lions as high, but I do really like the rest of your top 10.
Fair enough. We could put that back up if you don't mind. So Lions at 3. I love the Seahawks right now. They're dominating teams. This is like, Casey, your argument about this team heading into last year. They let you down. They let me down because me and you were on the same side as that. What I expected from Seattle last year is how they look this year. I love their run game. Love the weapons they have in the pass game. Geno actually looks very, very solid.
They're not hurt anymore.
What's that? Yeah,
He's not
hurt anymore. That helps. And then defensively, they're ranked second defensively right now. That's how dominant they've been defensively. That's one of the big turnarounds. That was Seattle's. That's what led to their success during the Russell Wilson era, was that defense more so than anything else. That is back in Seattle. I really like them. I have them at 4. And then the Vikings. They're not just 3-0, but 2 of the 3 games they've played in, they've absolutely pummeled teams. I have to admit, when I was wrong, I was way wrong on Sam Darnold. I don't think I'm going to be wrong at the end of the season on Sam Darnold, but 3 games in, you have an offensive-minded head coach. They have looked lights out offensively. You never would know that they moved on from Kirk Cousins, or their top 10 draft pick that they picked to help lead this team was out and injured for the season. Got to put the Vikings at 5. Houston's at 6. They're coming off their worst loss of the season, but I do think Houston, I've been very high on from the very beginning. I got to keep them in my power rankings. They didn't just lose. They got obliterated, but I still like what they have going on in Houston. Philadelphia Eagles, very balanced, 2 impressive wins, very balanced on both sides of the ball. The team that I'm super high on right now, I just couldn't really move them up any higher than this, is the Jets.
Love them.
I love the Jets. I actually, for any of you that watched Aaron Rodgers last Monday night, what I love about what the Jets are doing with Aaron Rodgers, they're not having him come out to be what he was in Green Bay. They're not having him sling the ball all over the field, deep down the field. I mean, he's just such a smart quarterback. He is literally getting the ball out quickly. He lures you in, and then, of course, he beats you down the field with Garrett Wilson. I love the Jets. I wouldn't be surprised to see them continue to climb, not just mine, but a lot of people's power rankings down the road. The Saints, absolutely impressive. I know they're coming on. They have 1 loss on the season, but we can't ignore what they were able to do the first 2 weeks. And then I have the Green Bay Packers at 10. I could not put the Pittsburgh Steelers in my top 10. I could not put the Pittsburgh Steelers in my top 10. I like the progression of Justin Fields, but I don't look at Justin Fields as an elite level quarterback, and he's coming off his best game of the season. More power to him. But we're forgetting that if we didn't have a semi-interest in Justin Fields from a Buckeye perspective, any quarterback that is leading an offense that averages the least amount of touchdowns in the NFL 3 weeks in, we're not giving them a lot of love. But we're doing this here because people want to prove a point that the Bears had something good and they ruined it, want to prove a point that Justin Fields is actually a very good NFL quarterback. He might develop into one. To be fair, he's ascending. He's ascended each and every week. But the Pittsburgh Steelers offense, they're also telling you they don't trust him 100%.
Right. Yeah.
He's thrown the ball in the low 20s and the low 30s in all 3 games. It's not like they're dropping him back like a Patrick Mahomes or a Joe Burrow or a Josh Allen. They're being very careful with them, but that is smart. I'm not going to knock them for that. That is smart. I just don't think that's a recipe that's going to win you a ton of games throughout the regular season, but kudos to that damn defense. They've played bad teams. You played Bo Nix in his second start. You played Kirk Cousins, who couldn't even put all the weight on his leg in week 1. And then, of course, coming off that win last week, I thought that was a good win until I realized Justin Herbert didn't even play in most of that game. So that's why I don't have the Pittsburgh Steelers in my top 10 right now.
A lot of surprising teams in your top 10. So follow-up question, who is your coach of the year 3 weeks in? A lot of teams that we didn't expect to be this good. I think there's really a clear 3 or so that are really separating themselves from everyone else. I think that my clear favorite right now is KOC, Kevin O'Connell in Minnesota. I think what he's been able to do to make that team and offense look so good without the quarterback you drafted in the top 10 is absolutely incredible. I think Mike McDonald, right?
Yep.
In Seattle. Mike McDonald in Seattle, great DC in Baltimore last year, great DC at Michigan in his time there, and then now taking Seattle, and their offense has looked great, which is something a lot of people didn't expect, losing their offensive coordinator as well from last year. And then I think Matt LaFleur at 10 for the Packers, losing Jordan Love in week 1, everyone wrote this team off, said that, here's 2, 3, 4 easy losses. Honestly, before it was released, we thought the season was over for him and the Packers were going to be in the dumpster. Obviously, good news came out shortly after that he was going to return hopefully this week. and they've been able to carve out 2 wins with Malik Willis, and I think all that credit goes to Matt LaFleur and what he's been able to scheme with that offense. Not saying you have to pick one of those 3, but anyone else in your top 10, who would you pick to be coach of the year so far?
I like LaFleur. I think what we do with
Taylor.
I like what the problem I have with some of these awards is they're always storyline driven versus actual like coaching driven. Now, again, these guys are coaching.
Yeah.
And they're overcoming stuff. I like what Seattle's doing with their coach O'Connell. You talked about with the Vikings, but again, I'm not going to give it to Campbell. But like again, Detroit's consistent.
Yeah.
Mike Tomlin. If we're just talking 3 weeks in, can't argue with Mike Tomlin. Yeah, I hate it. I can't stand it. But they're 3-0. They have no business being 3-0. They're 3-0, and they just find ways to win. That's coaching. It's the same thing that Minnesota's doing. They're finding ways to win. But again, it's a story-driven league. I'd have to go with the Vikings right now. Again, Sam Darnold. Literally, everyone counted them out because of that.
Yeah.
I really like the Vikings, and I really like what O'Connell's doing there.
I think they probably have the best offense-defense combo in the league with Brian Flores as their defensive coordinator. It's unbelievable. Well, I overstretched. They're definitely Kansas City, Andy Reid and Spagnuolo. But I guess second with KOC and Brian Flores, they made not Justin Fields. They made C.J. Stroud last week look worse than C.J. Stroud has looked in the NFL really ever. And this week they play. They go to. It's interesting what the Vikings are able to do with a lot of pieces missing on defense. They lose Danielle Hunter, who's been a key for that defense for so many years, and Brian Flores has just had a scheme that's been so good that they've been able to overcome all that. And it's really impressive how good that team's looked without the star players that we've known for so many years. I think the Vikings are the real deal.
I hate that Justin Herbert went out.
Do you know what their win total was, by the way, coming into the year?
The Vikings?
Was it 7?
6.5.
6.5. And they're already 3-0.
3-0, and they've looked like the best team in the NFL.
And that's the thing.
They haven't trailed.
They haven't trailed. 3 minutes.
They haven't trailed, and then the Dolphins on the opposite end. They have yet to have a lead at any minute for any moment of a game. I'm disappointed that the Chargers lost Justin Herbert early in that game, because I'm not going to lie to you. If you asked me that question, if the Chargers win and Herbert stays healthy, Harbaugh would be my coach of the year right off the bat. They basically just blew up that roster, at least one side of the roster. And Quentin Johnson has all of a sudden, we're watching legit coaching happening at this point. That's what's wild. By the way, we totally missed on the Bills a little bit. I know we're kind of Bills fatigue, but again, you lose all your McDermott. I don't know. There's a lot of good coaching going on right now early on in the NFL.
100%.
It's hard to pick just one. It's tough to do 3 weeks in. But Harbaugh, had they won against the Steelers, if Herbert didn't go out, I would have probably said Harbaugh right off the bat just 3 weeks in.
I think the Chargers, it's about to get really ugly because they lost both of their tackles as well. And Joe Alt's going to miss some time, and Rashawn Slater's probably out for a few weeks as well. And if you have Herbert back there, I think you're going to struggle without those 2 tackles, and much less with Taylor Heineke this week, and who knows for how long. I don't know why the Chargers forced Herbert back into the game. Yeah. If you have a high ankle sprain, that's not something that just you snap your fingers and you're healthy again. They force him to play. They force is a strong word. He's a competitor who's one of the highest paid quarterbacks in the league, and he wants to play. There's no doubt in my mind that he was in the coach's offices begging them to put him on the field. But what's the coach's job? It's to protect the players from themselves in these kind of situations, and you're playing a Steelers team that maybe you thought you had a chance to win the game if Herbert played, but I think you probably have a chance to win that game if Taylor Heineke plays. And just because how the Steelers play, every game they're in is going to be close, and you have the Chiefs on deck. How do you not protect Justin Herbert for that game?
But Harbaugh's not mad, because give him that top draft, give him a top draft pick, and he'll get a great defender. And there you go. Look out for the Chargers.
Brandon Graham or Will Johnson.
But
he's just going to draft a Michigan guy.
Michigan guy. There you go. All right, that wraps it up for us here on a Wednesday. Thank you, everybody, or at least wrapping it up on the radio side. This has been Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. For Justin Kidder, Casey McAllister, Elliot Rearing, and Jacob Tissett, this has been Off the Bench. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Did I mention it's off the bench?
We got a back pocket contender pretender for tomorrow. Don't burn that in these last 13 minutes.
No, we're not. That's why when I got through that Bengals-Browns one, I'm like, we can push that one to tomorrow. So there you go. I see Everett said, what was? Something about another layup, of course, for the Chiefs with the division. Yes, but the one thing about the Chiefs, though, you can't deny who they beat in the playoffs, though. I know that it's wild, though. That division, I thought the Broncos were going to be elite when they got Russell Wilson. The Raiders looked like they were trending in the right direction. It looked like the Chargers were going to continue to be dominant with Justin Herbert when they had all the elite weapons there, Eckler and everybody. Sorry to bring up Eckler, probably not a good name you want to hear right now. But no, that division has been bad for so long. He's just like Brady benefited from the bad East for so long.
Yeah.
Patrick's benefiting from that during the regular season. But the names that Patrick's beating every year in the playoffs, I know Burrow beat him in the AFC title game years ago, but he's also beat Burrow in the AFC title game. He's beat Josh Allen regularly in the playoffs. He beats Tua. He beats Lamar Jackson last year. I get it. It's an easier path when you play in a bad division like that. While Joe Burrow's having to fight through the Steelers, and you don't want to give the Browns too much credit, but that Browns team and, of course, the Ravens, it's a much different path to get to the playoffs, but you can't deny once they get there, he's going head-to-head with the best QBs in the league and coming out on top.
If there's people that are still trying to detract from what Patrick Mahomes has done, then I'm not talking sports with you. I mean, there's no reason to talk NFL with people that are still trying to detract from what Patrick Mahomes has done. He's unbelievable. 3 Super Bowls in your first 5 years starting. It's crazy. He's doing stuff we've never seen before. He's unbelievable, and that's why I will never have the Chiefs below 2 on my power rankings, I guess. I mean, we could see them lose however many games. Last year they looked terrible. All the way through the Super Bowl they looked terrible, and they won the Super Bowl. Correct. Their roster's so much better this year. They look so much better this year. There's no doubt. It should be in anyone's mind that Mahomes is the best quarterback in the league. I think he's the best quarterback ever, and he's going to continue to do so for over a decade. And I don't know why anyone would expect anything to change with Kansas City, because as long as they're in close games, as long as he has them fighting, they're going to continue to get the benefit of the doubt on close calls, because that's what happens when you're a perennial contender. You get benefit of the doubt on coin flip calls. And when you're in every game down to the wire because you never get blown out and you never really lose, there's a lot of those calls that come into play, and the Chiefs benefit from that a lot, and that's why people get mad. But the same thing has happened to every dynasty in every sport. So he's an incredible player, and there's nothing really else to say on him.
We ready to talk about yet how bad Travis Kelce has been? Like bad?
I'm holding off.
Fat Swifty?
He had a bad start to last year as well.
This is bad, though. Like, his targets are way down.
Yeah.
It's not just and touchdowns are one thing. I mean, a lot of times – but like
last year coming into the year, though, he was the number one option. So this year, I mean, you've got –
actually, it was that post-Bengals game. Oh, no, that was, I guess, 2 years ago. Sorry, never mind. I'm going to sit this one out. It was 2 years ago where he was bad to start the season. Then he had a big catch in the middle of the field against the Bengals. Then the regulars, and then he was hot the rest of the way. But no, last year, you're right. He was obviously their biggest target. Rashee Rice is really good.
Yeah, really good.
Really good, because
we reopened that investigation. Hopefully, fell out a little bit.
Is there? So I was just going to ask though, because the Chiefs, I feel like, are going to get hot. Can anything else come of that? No, right?
I don't think so.
So, like, there's
Could it hypothetically? Yes. Will it? No.
From a legal standpoint, not really asking that, but I mean, like, is the NFL like waiting on like one final piece of information before they make a ruling?
If he somehow got legally charged and convicted, then the NFL would react to that.
Yeah.
But I think we're beyond that point now.
Yeah, because I was like, man, you would hate for that ascension. They're up. I mean, we wouldn't hate for that. I mean, who cares? But like, all of a sudden they're rolling, and then now the NFL wants to take care of business there. But they wouldn't do that though, right? They wouldn't. They protect the Chiefs. There's no way that they would do that. Casey, you didn't say you didn't like it, but what was it about the power rankings that you said you were surprised by?
I just thought that it was a weird order, not a surprise with the teams that were in there. I got to pull it back up here so I can remember what the order was. But I thought that the Lions being third, I thought Seahawks being fourth was very odd. But I guess you have a lot of faith in them. I was also surprised. I'm guessing that this is not taking or this is taking in consideration that the fact that the 49ers are just beat up right now. Other teams that are just super beat up right now. I probably would have had the Ravens at 10.
The Ravens at 10?
Yeah.
That would have been shocking.
I think the Ravens. I would have probably put the Saints down. That's the team I would have swapped out.
So at 10, I had the Packers there, yes, obviously, but I did have the Ravens as a possibility, the Steelers as a possibility, and yes, Washington as a possibility. I just couldn't do it with Washington because of how bad they are defensively. But the fact that, of course, 2 straight weeks without a punt, they're dominant offensively, but that defense, they're bad. They're, I think, the third or fourth worst defense in the NFL right now. That's why I couldn't go that route, but I at least I was like tinkering with the idea. But really, there was no one else. I mean, Tampa, last couple weeks, people have been in love with them, but Tampa had it off. That's Baker, by the way. He's going to have really, really good games, and then he's going to look like he did last Sunday. That's why I'm not high on Tampa and Baker there. Where are we with the Saints? I have the Saints there.
I would have had the Falcons in over the Saints. I think the Falcons are the number one team in the NFC South right now.
Still rolling there?
Yep. You came one possession, one pass interference call away from beating the Chiefs. You had a great drive against the Eagles. I know you're 1-2 right now, but week 1, Kirk Cousins didn't look like the Kirk Cousins we've seen in week 2 and 3 now. I have a lot. If we're doing power rankings of who I think are the best teams in the league, I think the Falcons are a top 10 team in the league.
All right.
3 and 4 play each other this week. Big game on the Kinder board.
What's going on this week?
Lions Seahawks, right?
Let me pull up the on the Kinder board. I see what you're saying. Yeah, got a couple. Giants Cowboys
That
this
game's gonna
week.
rock. Lions Seahawks.
I'm pissed at the Steelers. As bad as their back half of the schedule is, like, there's a legit chance they start out 4-0, and it's going to tick me off.
Oh, I think the Steelers this weekend is one of my favorite bets.
So they're -2, which is wild.
Mike Tomlin is going to put Anthony Richardson so deep in a blender that he's going to have no idea what to do. No idea what to do. And then they go play the Cowboys at home. Are we sure that he's not going to be able to get in that offense's head? And the defense has been terrible against the run. And then they play the Raiders and the Jets and the Giants and the Commanders. Are we sure the Steelers aren't going to be like 9-0?
They might be, but then they'll lose out.
Right. Well, yeah.
So
I said last night, before the season, you just took out the pen. You put the pencil away. You took out the pen. You wrote 9-8 next to the Steelers' name. And it really does not matter when those 9 wins come.
Yeah.
It could be the first 9 games of the year, or it can be 3 here, 3 there, 3 later. They're going to finish 9-8.
How many
3-0, 4-0 after this week. You just have to be 500 the rest of the way.
Oh, yeah.
How many wins get
You know about that back half, though.
Yeah.
How many wins gets you in the playoffs this year?
You need double digits to be talking about
in
it.
the AFC?
Yeah.
I think the AFC is kind of bad right now.
I was going to say,
not
as of
bad,
right,
but average, I guess.
I still don't think so.
I can see the path. I don't think the Browns are going to make the playoffs. Respectfully,
I love that that's a thing now.
I don't think the Steelers will make the playoffs. The Dolphins definitely will not. The Patriots will not. AFC South will not, except for the Texans.
But you have to get 7 in there somewhere.
That's what I'm saying. I think 9 wins might get you in this year.
So
I don't think the Steelers will make it. I could be wrong.
Jets
I
out of the East.
I wouldn't bet on it. But
Bills Jets out of the East. Who's winning the North?
I would say Baltimore right now.
I don't know. I'm not going to say Baltimore either. But
that's not a coin flip because of what we thought coming in. Man, anyone can win that division. I'm like, who the hell's good enough to win this division from what we've seen 3 weeks in? But the South, I still think is the Texans. I don't think that's even a hot take. But so if you have Buffalo, the Jets, one team out of the North, the Houston Texans, and the Kansas City Chiefs, that's 5.
I have 2 teams out of the North, and I have the Chargers.
Okay. You're still going to go with the Chargers right now? I just need to see.
I think Herbert's going to get back, and they're going to be fine.
If Herbert comes back, I'm with you on that, and I'll give him the advantage with the coach right there. But there's just Denver could be sneaky. Just look for them. Bo Nix looked really good last week. They have a good coach. I'd look out for Denver, but I'm not going to put stock into that. But I give no stock into anyone out of the South other than the Texans. No one. I mean, the North is a coin flip. Any one of those teams. Cincinnati could still turn it around. I know you guys are pretty down on them, but like. It's hard to look at a high-powered Joe Burrow offense with everyone healthy as of now to say they don't have a chance. But again, it's going to take a few weeks to soften that blow from Monday.
I think the door's a little bit more open. The
Jets are an interesting team because they might be a backdoor into the playoff team versus willing their way in. But I really like them. I really like Aaron Rodgers.
I think they're going to have 11 wins, 10 or 11 wins, no doubt about it. The Dolphins being as bad as they are is going to clinch that. The Dolphins and the Patriots both being terrible will give the Bills and the Jets enough to sneak in.
What do we have? So for this weekend, there were some lines I found that were interesting.
Very.
In this one. I want to start with, I guess, one that I'd hit, and I got to see the Niners injury report, but I'm taking the Patriots on Sunday. Not money line, but San Fran -10 according to ESPN Bet. -10. I'm taking the Patriots in that one.
Don't need the points. Give me the Patriots.
Money line?
Yep.
Attaboy. I like it. Yeah.
No Trent Williams is a much, much bigger deal than any other injury that they've had on that team.
You guys see that Christian McCaffrey stuff?
Phenomenal news
getting kind of
for your
ugly.
injury to go to Germany and get a third opinion. That's what they say. When you leave the country because the doctors in the United States aren't telling you good news, that's when you know it's trending in the right direction. So shout out everyone that picked him 1-1 in fantasy without practicing all offseason.
Yeah,
that's a smart move.
That's brutal. Like, I couldn't have done it. It wouldn't have been me.
What does this do to the whole don't pay running backs argument?
I think that's going to continue to rely on how Jordan Mason plays. Because if they don't lose anything in the rushing attack, then it's going to get loud.
You're right.
Because CMC was the one guy that even the most ardent don't pay the running back guys would leave out. They said, okay, you pay a guy like CMC because he's special. If Jordan Mason's able to keep this offense on track, especially with a Deebo Samuel out, a Trent Williams out, if he's able to look really good, top 15 running back or so in the league, then I think we're having an even louder conversation about running backs comes into this offseason.
Another line that caught my attention, Cardinals, Commanders, Arizona -3 at home after what we just saw. Look, I think when you're a young team like the Commanders who get a big win Monday Night Football, a dominating one, a historic one on the road, you remain on the road, you got to go to the Cardinals. It's tough for a young team who just, I mean, again, you think of the emotional, tone of that game. It's Monday Night Football, you reach the status of that. Then you got to go to Arizona on a Sunday for, I guess it's the 4 o'clock kickoff, which is 1 o'clock their time. So I don't know. I feel like it's going to be hard to match that intensity they had on Monday. I could see why this line is what it is, but I still like Washington. I still think that offense is – I think the Bengals defense was not helping the situation, but 2 straight weeks without a punt, scoring on every single possession for 2 straight weeks. Even if you force them to punt a couple times, I have a hard time believing that they just totally disappear offensively against the Cardinals, who aren't an elite defensive team. So I'm going to roll with the Commanders in this one. But again, I'm disrespecting Kyler Murray. I think everyone forgets Kyler Murray's back, and they've been okay. We'll see what happens in that one.
Thursday night, I know we'll talk about it more tomorrow as we preview the game a little bit, but Cowboys at Giants. Cowboys 5.5-point favorites. Dak Prescott has covered 10 straight primetime games versus divisional opponents. He's 27-7 against the spread versus divisional opponents since 2017.
Really?
What do you guys make about the Packers being a 2.5-point favorite at home without Jordan Love going up against a high-powered Vikings team?
That's what it tells me. It tells me Jordan Love's playing.
All right, I like it. I do. I want to see if the Packers are good, because remember, I was not high on them going in. That's a good team. I always make it about the quarterback too much and forget about the Bengals look at it's an elite quarterback. It takes a lot of pieces around it to make that work.
Coaching matters a lot more than people want to say.
The Packers have that as far as that's concerned.
Yeah.
But yeah, that line, and then the Bengals line does continue to move. Bengals -4.5. I know that line has shifted quite a lot over the last couple of days, but Bengals -4.5. I'm not really asking anyone to pick game. I'm just the lines that kind of caught my attention is what we were coming through. But look at that, it's noon.
Hey,
I thought Houston was light at a 6.5-point favorite over the Jags.
I think, is that a result? What was it? I wonder what it was before they got their ass kicked this last Sunday. Because I wonder if that played a role just with how poor, like if they, they're 3-0. Yeah, I mean, a one possession favorite over the Jags is kind of interesting with how bad the Jags have looked.
Oh my God.
What?
78% of the money's on Houston.
Yeah, it's gonna have to be It's gonna have to be.
Oh, I'm gonna have to bet on the Jaguars.
To cover or money line?
Jags.
Yeah, probably money line.
Again, teams with over 5.5-point spread
It just
doing
doesn't
very
happen.
bad.
It just doesn't happen.
But all right, well, we don't get paid overtime around here, boys, so we're out of here.
That's right.
We're out of here
Box lunch coming up.
There you go. Off the bench. Appreciate you.